What up? Oops. Wrong
Hello.
screen.
Whoop.
Hello.
The Discord. Oh no. They saw the guts of the Discord. Don't you want to be in there, everybody
Don't you want to be
who
in
isn't already on the
there?
Discord?
Don't
We
you
were
want to
just
be?
talking about our really excellent Discord conversion rate.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, we have like close to 250 people in the Discord of like
Mm,
1,000 uh
400.
400 Twitch followers, which is like,
Right.
what is that? Like a sixth? A sixth of you who are following here are in the Discord,
Or
which
a
is
seventh. Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. Or yeah, a little bit more than a seventh. Yeah. It's a pretty good conversion rate. And then it funnels back onto the stream the best. I feel like nothing gets people watching the stream more than just telling the people in the Discord that we're streaming. So those are like the real heads
Yeah.
in there.
If you're
And
and if you are in the Discord, don't forget, if you want it, that you can go to rules and do your pronouns, and also hit this, because only 40 people are actually getting notifications. So if you don't want it,
yeah,
that's cool, but which is why we did it
yeah,
that
but
way,
if
and
you
we don't do everyone. But
right, but yeah, if you do want to get notifications when we go live, because sometimes, especially me, I'll be going live without telling anybody about anything in advance. So every now and then. Is it cool if I join the Discord and then do nothing there? That's most of the people on the Discord, to be H. Like it's a pretty active Discord, but it's like definitely not all 250 people talking.
that's
Lurking is fine.
that's most people in most Discords, I would assume. My list of
Yeah.
Discords is so fucking long, and I have a hard time using ours. The one that's
Mhm.
dedicated to my shit. I have trouble like going in there and using.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like I think we've gone through before like what subreddits we follow and how like embarrassing that is. Like if I were to go through the Discord servers that I'm on, it's even worse
Oh
and
my
I'm
god.
so negligent in them. And it's good I'm not getting every notification on hypnosisforguys.discord or whatever.
Hypnosis for
Everybody there's
guys is really funny.
that's literally what it's called.
It's
That's
like
literally
it's like the manscaped of hypnosis. Like
yeah, and I turned off notifications because everything's like, I'm looking for a jock to make wear little wrestling singlets and show me his feet. And it's like, well, have fun. That's not me. All right.
Oh my god, that's really funny. Um Thank you, Pansy Scheme. Great name.
Yeah, thanks for the follow. So we had some sad news this week in streaming, or it was news to me.
Yeah,
TransGeeks made me aware of it. Your Blorbo.
my blurbo.
I'm one of the best streamers out there to ever do it.
Yeah,
I think it's fair to say. Germo is
Germo.
Germo Twitch is retiring,
Yep.
is what I heard.
There was the excuse me if this gets cut out of the VOD, because there is licensed music. But I did want to show this because it was so fucking good. Um
Oh my god. He scares me so much. Whoa, that long hair look. What the fuck?
He's got some good looks. Jeremiah, I swear, is one of those
Wow.
people. Every single picture is different of him. I mean, this one is famous for people putting the text over it. We combined a photo of every serial killer, and this is what we got.
He's so scary to me. Like I have so much respect for what he's out there doing. Like the geology stream where he was just in the desert
I gotta
with
watch
a
that one.
geologist looking at rocks, like the Dollhouse stream, the Sims.
Yeah.
Crazy ambitious. I can't stand looking at him. He scares me so much. I he fucking
Oh my
that picture of
god.
him eating a burger like a thought or whatever. Like I can't look at it. It's so painful. It's scary.
Oh.
Love to this man, but It's so intense.
So the reason I bring this up, one, because I want to talk about my Blorbo, um, and I guess we should be on him in the dollhouse. Where are you? Where are you, Germo?
No, it's
Um,
fine. Fine, Jeremy.
Find Jeremy in the dollhouse.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. He's laying on the table. He's resting because he's in retirement now.
Yeah, that's right.
There he is. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Where'd you go? Okay, there you go. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
there he is.
Um, but so basically, what he said is, and let's see if I saved, because there was a clip of basically what he said was, I've done everything I want to do. He's been streaming for like, over a decade. He's been streaming a very long time, and I should say I'm a new fan. Like, I actually watched some of his. It's very dumb. I watched some of his like let's play content, like edited stuff that he didn't stream like literally a decade ago, and it was some of there's a video on I forget what the game is called, like Space Quest or something like that. There's a video that he did on knockoff GTA mobile games that, like, those two games literally, like, I'm gonna pass out laughing. They're so funny. And then I lost track of him because he switched to streaming, and I didn't know what Twitch was at the time, and so I totally lost track of him until like the past year, or year or two or something like that. I think when he did the Dollhouse stream, I got back into him. But he was like, I've done everything I wanted to do.
Mm.
And I've been doing it for a decade, and so he's got a new job now at oh god, I don't remember what it's called, but it's a company that basically does streaming events. So like, he did the Dollhouse, he's done all kinds of crazy things where it's not just on the computer. There'll be live sets, and there's games, and there's Twitch integration, and there's
Actors. Yeah.
all kinds of shit. Yeah, he did some of those clips from that video were from a contest he held to replace him, where he just found people and they all like rated their Germa impressions, which was very funny. But he's like the creative director of a company that does that, and like, these are giant Twitch streamers that are using this company. This shit, I'm sure he makes plenty of money from that. I'm sure he's a millionaire from the Twitch streaming he's already done. He doesn't fucking need to stream anymore, and so he doesn't. He streamed this past weekend or something like that, when he like rated mac and cheese, like kinds of mac and cheese, and he's basically just like, I'm only gonna do it when I want to do it, when I have something I want to do, and it'll be fun. And it's just the biggest
hit the bricks, pal, you're done.
Like,
yeah. That's the time theft today spirit. Anti-work.
Exactly.
Shit. I mean, I am such a big believer in not being ambitious past the point of what's actually interesting to you.
Yeah.
Especially somebody doing something that's so creative. Like, he could just, fall into a generic version of himself and just be grinding all the time.
Yeah.
And that would be so sad.
Yeah.
Lots of streamers do that. Fucking looking at you, Ethan Klein. Bitch ass Zionist.
Ooh.
But like, just doing nothing and just ordering Taco Bell on air every day as if that's content. I mean, work, but like, fuck you. But like,
yeah.
So that's yeah, it's great. I'm glad that Germ is going to a nice farm where he can play with all the other streamers.
Yeah, literally. He's the creative director. I mean, he gets to do whatever the fuck he wants at this company. And I think it's a company he helped found. Like, he's doing really cool shit that he wants to do, and he's not streaming every day, which I get it. I'm a Johnny come lately. Like, I get that there are people for the past 10 years who have been watching every one of his streams live. And it sucks to have your Blorbo, who's your friend like that, go. And even without being parasocial, I think that's fair. It's hard. So, but he's doing cooler shit, and he's gonna do it. He's not like never gonna stream again. He's gonna stream. I would be highly surprised if he never does something like the Dollhouse again. Like, he'll do something that ambitious. He'll get an idea and he'll just put a bunch of work into it, and it'll be fucking crazy, and it'll go on for a week. He'll do it again at some point, but
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking, like, because of that Jenny Nicholson video about the Star Wars space cruiser thing that just came out and how
mhm,
bad that was, like he's actually building like these interactive
yeah,
experiences that are like an attraction that you can participate in from at home.
yeah,
So, like, I don't know, it is just a really cool multimedia art form
yeah,
and gaming form for people to be experimenting with,
yeah,
especially in an era when like theme parks and escape rooms and things like that are like really falling off or like degrading in quality in a lot of places. And we're always such a corporate thing anyway.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's cool.
yeah.
Good for him.
It's cool. Um,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, really weird seeing Jenny getting such a huge reaction from having been a fan for so long. She's got such a good back catalog. Yeah, we've watched
Mhm.
we watched the Evermore
Evermore.
video
That
uh
one's dope. Yeah.
and the Christian cinematic universe video. Uh
Mhm.
somebody on Twitter was like, it is so weird that all of Jenny Nicholson's hyperfixations are breaking containment at once, because that video went so big. So yeah, I'm part of that. We just finished
Yeah, she had
the Dear Evan Hansen video. Jesus Christ, I do not think
that
I could
shit's
watch
so
that movie.
funny. Oh my god, and she had a profile in Rolling Stone this week because of that video.
Yeah,
Yeah. So she's blowing up. Um,
yeah. I
it's
saw
it's really cool.
I saw people respond to that like the I didn't read the article, but people were like, in the article they were saying, they were like, wow, it's this 4 hour long video that people are watching about something super nerdy, and it's like, friend, I
Are
mean,
you kidding me?
she might be one of the best in the game, but she is not the whole game. That is what we're all doing.
Also, that's a Star Wars property, like, that is one of the most
Yeah,
accessible and that's part of why it blew up because
right.
it gets a riled up, reaction from the Disney adults and the Disney vloggers and shit, and it's something that everybody can relate to, but, like, I've watched an 8-hour video of Quentin Reviews talking about iCarly, and I'm not even the right generation to know what that shit is, like, I just wanna see people be autistic.
Yeah, yeah, it's really good. She's so great, and it's so funny the way that her videos are like I don't know if she's actually autistic, um, but like the way that her videos, like, she's reading off of her screen and then her camera's like way up, like, she's reading off of her screen and then her
Mhm.
camera's like way up. It's like so autism coded, because she's basically like not making eye contact with you most of the time.
Yes, it definitely, like I've definitely heard that, like, "Oh, autism people look down," or, like, "Are you a looking up past people autistic or, like, a looking at the ground autistic?"
Right, like, I don't know if she is, but it gives off the
No.
it's very that coded. Like,
Yeah, yeah, she has the swag with all the stuffed animals and everything.
and
Um,
knowing what is the Star Wars language, she fucking knows how to read, and she was just reading it
reading the
in that
signs.
video.
Well, it's just an alphabet, to be
Right.
fair, so I do
Yeah.
know people who can read in that language, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's still very autistic.
Yeah.
They're autistic people, the people that I know how to do that for sure, but
Yeah.
it's not Klingon.
Is Klingon a real language? I thought that was Klingon was
I
is
think it is,
it's
or
a real
like Tolkien
conlang.
stuff, let's say, yeah,
Yeah.
then if not, I maybe it's not.
Klingon might be. It's hard to know. My dad used to talk about this is very off topic. What is that fucking language, that invented language?
Esperanto?
Esperanto. Yeah, I think one of my relatives maybe knew some Esperanto. That my huge nerdy relative may have known Esperanto or some Esperanto, but yeah, that shit is funny. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I wanted to quick shout out. Whiff Teef said this is the first time I've ever been able to catch y'all live. Hi from Australia. Hello. Thanks for being
hi.
here.
I love
Yeah.
Tom Walker's streams, so I know how that feels, of like being up way too late and being like, I get to catch my friends on the other side of the world.
Yeah. So he's Australian too. Do you guys know each other down there?
Yeah. Yep, that's how that works. That's why we
Yes.
know Donald Trump.
I know Ronald McDonald, Big Mac.
I mean, we all do, but that's different.
Yeah.
He's come to our house and given us burgers before, but that's not fair. That's a
Yeah,
different thing.
that's just a holiday. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the holiday we have.
Yes.
So how
Yeah.
we did actually which one do we want to do first? We got two big topics.
Let's do the Collins one first.
Yeah.
And get it over with.
Yeah. Then if
I
we
feel
run out
like-
of time,
yeah.
we can shorten the other one, because the HRT one, because that's probably gonna be a shorter conversation too.
Yeah, since we're not diving into that actual video, like, yeah, I feel like that's a topic we can make as long or as short as we want to.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe. Yeah.
So a good place to start with them might be one of their little TikToks.
Yes. Oh my God, everybody. Oh yeah. If you have to see this, we have to, or if we have to see this, you have to see this. Oh.
They did the porn one. Where did that go?
I have it in the show notes. I can pull it up if you want to.
I got it.
Okay. This is so jarring, this shit. Oh, just even the shroom.
Yep.
Yes, for every 10% increase in internet access in the US, there is a corresponding regional decrease of 7.3% in grapes, suggesting that the internet and its facilitation of masturbation may provide an outlet for sexual energy that might otherwise cause serious damage.
Consider how correlational that is. 10% to a 7% drop. A 10% rise in internet access to a 7% drop.
Yes, for every 10% increase.
Wait, who is that? Is that John Pork?
John Pork, don't look at this. John Pork, leave him, get him out of here. Get him out of this. Oh my God.
I just had to add that because it's so like that video.
No, let's not sully John Pork's good name with this shit. Everything, so much to hate here. The sudden zooming effect at the beginning of the video, the just like intense choppy editing, the podcaster voice.
Yeah.
The fact that this seems like this is one of those podcasts nobody watches, that they just make so that they can cut it down into TikToks.
Yeah.
To advertise their brand. The use of grapes instead of rape.
Yep. It's called fucking Based Camp.
How dare they say either one of those words?
This is not camp. Well, I don't know. It would be camp if it was if like a queer person was doing this everything about this like as a bit. It would be extremely camp. But
yes. I mean, we should do this. We should make one of these for sure.
I think we should. That was kind of why I grabbed the John Pork thing. Because I was like, we should try and figure out what ours would look like and do it on the show. So like at the end of this discussion, we should be earmarking some things that we could talk about. I don't know if we like talk about like shit they're saying and just like unmask it, like, or we could talk about something we actually do believe, but like do it in their style as a bit. Like, I don't know, something we should figure it out. So like help us out with that as we're having this discussion.
There's this like credulous, oh, I know this one little statistical factoid, and my interpretation of it has all of these big implications for society. Thing that they do that is like a so much more evil version of like, there used to be the NPR Ira Glass, like, oh, and this is like really interesting, right? So I wonder if this means blah blah blah, like, and it had all of this ideology lurking behind it,
right?
But this shit is so much even.
Radiolab did that too, and I used to listen to a lot of Radiolab, and then there was some like huge criticism of it, like where it was like they did a bunch of shit where they just like, I wish I could remember the criticism. There was some big criticism of a particular Radiolab story that was like, it was like really racist because it was like it framed some like indigenous group in this weird way. I don't know. It was years ago, and I don't remember the specifics, but it was really like, damn. It really opened my eyes of like, damn. I don't feel comfortable listening to this stuff because it is convincing, but I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know if I agree with their politics, and so I can't know like what they're leaving out and how they're if they're framing this story in a way that is actually really shitty.
Yeah. That's such a problem with like, This American Life came under fire for that too, with this big social science study that supposedly showed like talking to a gay person once made you less homophobic, and all the data was like falsified and all this stuff. Like those things, which are more liberal than this, but are
Right.
still, I think, connected, they use sciency language, and it's people who are not scientists or like science communicators even at all talking about it, and so it immediately loses context and gets regurgitated and then, like, fed through the lens of whatever their political ideology is,
Right.
and that stuff is really persuasive for people. Like,
Yeah.
there's, like, all these studies that have found that if you just put a bunch of neuroimaging research photos into a scientific study, people think it's more scientific, even if the methodology is exactly the same and they're, like, just using a survey methodology or whatever. Like,
Yep.
people are just really, production value can really seduce people.
Which is
Um,
why our shit looks like shit on purpose. Like this. This was
well,
actually a
yeah.
thing we talked about, like what, because I when we started streaming, I was like, what do you want this show to look like? And Devin was like, told me about how you like purposefully do stuff on Instagram where the background is like your legs or like a wall, and it's like purposefully non-aesthetic.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like this, avoiding, like, intellectual airbrushing,
Right.
is what I like to call it. Like, that weird Canva shit that people make infographics on that's, like, fake authoritative, but, like, approachable and fun and soft pastels and textbook formats and stuff. Like,
Right.
I think it's gross, and first of all, it has no swag. Um, Second of all, it presents itself as, like, neutrality, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I really, think, there is no separating, the message from where it's coming from, and so it's nice to show, like, "Here's my dirty ass floor.
Yeah.
Here's the stairwell that I'm posting from because I'm unhinged." Like, maybe you shouldn't trust what I'm saying. I'm literally just a guy ranting online.
Yeah, like anything is an aesthetic is the thing. Like
Mhm.
you can't like that is an aesthetic, and that can be even
Yeah.
like a pleasing aesthetic. But like so you can't like not have an aesthetic, right? Like even if your aesthetic is white, a black Arial text on a white background with no formatting, like it's still an aesthetic and it still gives a certain, but yeah, I think like yeah, like what you're saying is like trying to be overly clean lends a certain kind of authority to it, and trying to fight that in some way, you know you can't like I just said, you can't not have any aesthetic, but like thinking about what your aesthetic is and what it's saying and what it's selling is
Mhm.
an important thing to us. um
Mhm.
but anyway, um
Yeah.
G, G, Jean-Paul Blart says, the Radiolab story about Agent Orange in Vietnam. Yes, that is what I'm thinking about. I don't remember the details, but that, if you want to Google it, that was the story I was thinking of.
Mhm.
I remember it was really fucked
Yeah.
up,
Yeah,
but I
they
don't
had a
remember
few
the.
things.
Yeah, there were other things too.
There were a
That
few
was
things
one
they
that
were
blew
criticized
up.
on. Yeah. Yeah. And then all that's similar stuff happened with Gimlet, with them having a really racist professional environment, uh, and all their stuff too. So, you know, the NPR tote bag set stays losing.
Yeah.
But now we have the Collins family and the
Again,
pro-natalist movement.
are much worse, right? Like
Much worse.
the ideology they're selling is not just, liberal, nice liberal racism. It's you know,
Mhm.
eugenics.
It's like eugenics. Yeah. Yeah. So some of y'all may have first been introduced to them in an article that came out a couple of years ago, just talking about, oh, this super smart couple who's trying to save white person population collapse and believes that all, white people and intelligent people and wealthy people should have as many kids as possible. Um, that you probably saw making the rounds. This is a new article about them, a little, and they're wildly influential, I should say. Like, their viewpoints about there being a responsibility for, I don't even know how they would put it, but like intelligent people, people with quote unquote good genes. It's eugenics. The responsibility of them to have as many kids as possible because the population is falling. That's been really influential to Elon Musk. Lots of Silicon Valley thinkers. Grimes hangs out with Simone Collins, um, the mother of this couple, or the mother in this couple, and so even if you haven't heard of them, you've seen the
Seen their
cultural shockwaves.
You've seen their dumbass glasses. Probably.
Yeah, you've seen their and literally got some dumbass glasses like Simone after she started hanging out with Simone. It's so these Iris Apfel ass big red
Oh my god.
glasses. So yeah, so this article came out in The Guardian this week. And you called it. We're gonna call it a full-blown sharticle.
Yeah. We talked about this. We were thinking it wasn't a sharticle, but I think that this article really set out to do more of a one of these, again, liberal media, like, well, here's their argument and we're not endorsing it, but we're going to, regurgitate it with uncritically. I think the big thing, and I think it's one of their, how they, I don't remember what they call it. I don't see it, but I thought it was one of their, this is not quiverful. The fundamentalist Christian belief that large families are a blessing from God. The Collinses are atheists. They believe in science and data, studies, and research. Their pronatalism is born from hyper-rational effective altruism movement, the recently made notorious by Sam Bankman-Fried,
I think.
which uses utilitarian principles and cool-headed logic to determine what is best for life on Earth. This is a numbers game focused on producing the maximum number of heirs, not to inherent assets, but genes, outlook, and worldview. And it's being advocated by some of the most successful names in tech. So they believe in science and data, studies and research. That is presented uncritically. And
right.
As we'll get into, this article does criticize them, but it criticizes them as people and doesn't actually, it basically, from my point of view, this article shows like it criticizes them by like presenting their arguments against their dubious parenting. And that does serve as criticism of them, but it does not actually criticize their worldview, which it should, because it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that they are presented their beliefs coming from data, which is a big thing we'll criticize here, that's presented uncritically, right. Even though a lot of their beliefs are not backed up by like the science. Like not
the science on corporal punishment is very clear. Like that's, if you heard about this article already this week, it's because of a really viral bit from it that we'll get to later about the father in the couple, Malcolm Collins, hitting his son, his 2-year-old son, in public in front of the reporter. And their justification for that was tigers swat at their cubs to keep them in line, as if that's a scientific argument for what they're doing, when in actuality decades of scientific research is abundantly clear first of all, corporal punishment is just wrong on principle. It doesn't matter whether it works or not, right? Like it's wrong to beat children, even if it got them to do exactly what you wanted them to do.
Right.
But also, it inhibits learning. It inhibits attachment. It puts somebody in fight or flight mode. It makes them more likely to behave aggressively with others. Like every negative outcome you could possibly think of, that might be a consequence of hitting a child, turns out is a consequence of doing that. Um, so for them to call themselves and just be billed in this article as science based, as like data informed parenting, because they said, oh yeah, I can think of an animal that beats their kid's ass, and that's just not challenged by the reporter. Yeah, you're right. It's like completely negligent
Yeah.
reporting.
Um. Yeah. So at the time, maybe he noticed how appalled I was when I hit Torsten. We haven't even talked about their fucking names yet. On the way
Yeah.
back to the farmhouse, Malcolm tells me that he and Simone are developing a parenting style based on something she observed when she saw tigers in the wild. They react to bad behavior from their cubs with a paw, a quick negative response in the moment, which they find very effective with their own kids. I was just giving you the context so you don't think I'm abusive or something. This is after, earlier in the article, they even said they've been CPS has been called on them multiple times, which, again, I mean, we've talked about CPS is they're cops. You know, we are abolitionist against carceral system, and CPS is part of that. But it is like, you know, they acknowledge that people have called CPS on them, and for this couple, I do have to wonder, like, whether or not I agree with CPS existing. Like, was it like, is it for the reasons they say? Because the reasons they say is that they let them out in their yard, and that's a real thing. You know, people get, like, CBS called on them for really dumb reasons.
Yeah, especially black and brown parents.
Mostly black and brown parents.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously I'm not saying it's good somebody called CPS on them, but
it does remind me of the Hart family, that lesbian couple who had tons of adopted kids.
Yeah.
Who they ended up eventually like killing, and they had and obviously there are families that are abusive and neglectful in that way who don't get to that level, and it's still terrible, where, you know, they just leave the kids outside as a way to not have to deal with them, and then neighbors realized, oh wait, these kids are cold, these kids are starving, or whatever. um we don't know, but we get enough from this article that conveys really clearly that for as much as they believe there's a responsibility to have as many kids as possible, Malcolm and Simone Collins are very overt in this article that they don't like children.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like, Simone Collins says in this article that she made a deal with her husband that she will look after the kids for the first 18 months of their life, and then she passes them off to him, and he is in charge of every aspect of parenting after that point, because she basically doesn't want to deal with them and feels like she already did her end of the bargain. So he runs all the errands, he looks after them. They sleep in his office where he's like working during the day, like, and for the most part they just give them iPads and have them be left to their own devices.
Yeah, there's a really worrying part of this article that the author, I mean, I think intentionally, while not like, I think they could have been more explicit about this, but they intentionally talk about where there's one of the kids who's 2 years old, during the entirety of this journalist's visit, is somewhere upstairs with an iPad. A 2-year-old who's completely unsupervised, where they're using an iPad as a replacement for supervision. And then again, so they go out to the restaurant, and that's when the kid gets hit, is because they describe it as a bop on the nose. The article does mention that it is loud enough. You know, it is in front of a journalist that is recording, and in a restaurant, and done as if a reflex, and is loud enough that it can be heard on the recording later. But the kid, basically he said, like, the journalist is like, are they going to enjoy Thai food? And he's like, oh, they'll be fine. I'll just give them rice and then I'll have them look at their iPads. And then they don't want the iPad to look at the iPads. They want to like play and explore the space. And he instead is like, literally like, no, just look at your iPads, like loading up videos.
Well, part of their ideology, their pro-natalist ideology specifically, is that child rearing environmental factors they think don't really matter in
Yeah.
determining a child's well-being, how useful quote unquote they're going to be to society, because that's all they really care about. They think it's all pretty much genetics. And so that's really core to their argument, that it's important for people with good genetics, like themselves, supposedly, to have as many children as they can. And it's okay if you kind of take a hands-off approach, for the most part, a neglectful approach
Yeah.
to parenting, because you've already given them the raw genetic material that they supposedly need to survive. So there's a lot of neglect and abuse going on in here. And the
Yeah.
reporter talks about right from
Um,
the outset, the house is too cold,
yeah.
all kinds of things. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, Mark has the GM. Whoops, I'm getting mad. The kids are not all right. Yes, absolutely. I'm wishing we had started with a trigger warning, because this shit is fucked up. You know, and especially the you know, somebody earlier when I brought up Quiverful said that's a definition of Quiverful for sure, because it's like this. Even this article is like mentions Quiverful, but doesn't even like really describe how how much of a racist ideology that is,
And abusive
and abusive and
everything.
yeah, and we'll get into that. But yeah, this is some fucked up shit. And if anybody needs to like step away, please be aware of yourself, because I get it. This is child abuse we're talking about, and it's really fucked up.
Yeah.
And
Those are the things we've already touched on are the main
Yeah.
specific instances of child abuse that we'll talk about. It won't
Yeah.
really go into much detail beyond that, but yeah, just so you know, yeah. These are people who hit their kids and keep their house purposely very cold
Yeah.
to save money so they can put all of their money into having more kids, and are not emotionally present parents.
Yeah, Charles is here. Therapy cat is here.
Good.
But yeah, I'm trying to think what are these kids' names, because I think that shit's child abuse too.
Oh my god.
Like, I don't know. That's a complicated subject, but you know,
it's definitely cringy as fuck. Torsten okay, so there's 4-year-old Octavian George, 2-year-old Torsten Savage, 16-month-old Titan Invictus, and then Simone is pregnant with their 4th child, who's going to be named Industry Americus Collins. Yeah.
That shit, I don't know, man. I don't think we should control what people name their kids, but it's a wild thing. I think kids should be able to I think kids should be able to change their own names once they can.
Yeah.
And this is obviously gender is a big part of the reason I feel that way, but yeah, this is too.
It all comes back to, as somebody mentioned in the chat, children being regarded as property. Like our political and social paradigm is that children are the property of their parents, and so they have no rights. And yeah, I think if we're talking about family abolition, which is definitely something we should have more episodes about and have guests on about.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, kids should be able to name themselves and change their names all the time. Like, it should be as easy to change your name as it is to change your Twitter display name.
Yeah. I mean, and that goes
I really
into
believe that.
a conversation we've had, we've had parts of, which is like this idea of like, government like record keeping sort of as like a one of the ways in which the state does violence, and is treated as this like immovable fact. It really blew my mind when you talked about on here how that like sex designation was not on licenses or documents in any way until the 70s, when there was this crisis of like men having long hair and women having short hair, and this like it was almost like it wasn't so much like even a gender thing at that point. It was like, you know, it wasn't even a trans thing at that point, right? It was just like
Right. Gender nonconformity
right. and
or illegibility.
right,
Yeah.
that we started to have these conversations as and feel the need to demarcate people legally as a certain sex. Like we should not be we should not be fighting for X on a passport. We should be fighting to remove sex designations on passports. Like
And birth certificates. Like a lot of
yeah,
doctors, a lot of medical organizations now are even, thank God, and it'll be a long time before they're listened to, but they're even recommending that sex shouldn't be assigned on a birth certificate.
right,
Like that was not always there.
right. Medically,
And I'm reading. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say medically we've talked about the, you know, how even using that in a medical context is not is really problematic, in the same way that like using a weight for a stand-in for health is problematic. You know, we need to be moving towards things like organ what was it, organ
Organ inventory.
organ inventories, right? And it's all the same
Yeah.
shit, but
Right. Say the thing that you mean. But like to kind of connect it back to what we're talking about too, like I think we also need to move that way with like abolishing age, even as like a quick and tidy framework for here's what rights you get and here's what rights you don't get and what social supports you receive. Because
right,
that too, unfortunately, we're moving into this instead into this weird realm of faux science. You're not really an adult until you're 25 and your brain's myelinated. And so you're the property of your parents, and the state can limit what you do with your body up until that point. And
yeah.
yeah, it leads to lots of things like this.
So let's I want to make sure we cover everything that's in this initial article, because this is the article that kind of went viral, and I think is a really good place to start this whole conversation.
Yeah.
So I think we've probably covered a lot of it, but they talk about somehow, you know, and we mentioned it, that that Elon Musk is a person, seems to be a personal friend, and definitely a believer in pronatalism pronatalism, which pronatalism.org or pronatalist or pronatalism.org is a specific website that these people have founded. So these are not just practitioners of this belief. They are also like they run this website. They run a nonprofits dedicated to this stuff. And
It's natalism.org.
Natalism.org. Thank you.
Yeah. They were the keynote speakers at the first Natalism conference, which was last December.
Which we'll get into. I read an interesting article talking about that.
So yeah, they're the big boosters of this movement. And you know, Donald Trump is a supporter of them. J.D. Vance, which is funny because we were just speaking of the Trillbillies, the guy who wrote Hillbilly Elegy, who his basic like thesis is that poor white people in rural areas are suffering because they're stupid and use drugs and have too many kids, and they're not the right people who should be doing that. Like, so
Right.
it's a very, again, eugenicist kind of conservative thinker. They're all big fans of this natalist movement.
So they kind of this journalist does actually bring up the Great Replacement Theory, which is I think I mean this is old. Great Replacement Theory, I believe, comes from a book that was written in the 70s. Do you know what I'm talking about? Because I'm trying to remember the specifics. There's like a book written in the 70s that was like, I think, a fictional book that was kind of like I think it was a little like Soylent Green or something like that, where it was like a sci-fi book where basically that kind of like what will happen if Great Replacement Theory happens. And it's basically that that people of color and people in poorer countries are out reproducing Europeans and white people, and that because of that, and this girds a lot of the racism around immigration. That basically they are going to outbreed us, and then they are going to immigrate into our countries and take over. Which
Right.
again is very much tied into Israeli supremacy, and supremacy
Mhm.
happening in Israel. That is the reason why a lot, in addition to, end times beliefs, that
Yeah, that evangelicals have, yeah.
right, like there is also definitely like, Israel is our great bulwark against, the Arabs that are gonna take over our precious European countries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a huge argument that's made, in Israel against any political, representation being
Right.
given to any Palestinian people, that they're, um and that a genocide can't possibly be happening because they're until this genocide started happening after October, or in October, that, there were more Palestinian people than there were after the Nakba happened. So, perceiving them as a threat because they were reproducing,
Right.
basically.
It's not an
Um
accident that so many kids are dying.
Right.
That is not an accident. Um,
No.
but
But it does look like the, Great Replacement Theory came from a 1916 book,
oh
which
wow.
makes sense, eugenicist era. The Passing of the Great Race by Madison Grant,
Okay.
who was a eugenicist figure. But yeah.
Um uh so yeah, they try, I think this is important. Um Malcolm so basically they're asked about this, um and uh Malcolm insists pronatalism is about pluralism. Humanity improves through cultural evolution. Again, evolution. That's, these are even in the response. It is
Y
eugenicist red flags.
And that's also not even how evolution works. Like, again, this is a gross misunderstanding, a willful misunderstanding of science. Evolution is not a upward progression.
Right.
We're not heading towards some ideal type of human, some ideal type of species. Literally, all the theory of evolution says is animals that fit well with their environment, that have traits that are compatible with what's available in their environment, survive.
Yeah.
There isn't some rank ordering of what's more evolved and less evolved. You're just evolved to your circumstances. So the whole idea behind eugenicism is just completely, ascientific.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Um. Um. Humanity improves through cultural evolution. For that, you need cultural diversity. But in this numbers games, the colonists need only a few people to join them to save humanity. Those who remain unconvinced will simply die out. I don't care if environmentalists don't want to have kids. The point of the movement is to help those who do. I think this is a good point, to a good part to say that. Oh shoot, what is that movie called? The Mike Judge.
Oh, Idiocracy.
Idiocracy. I legitimately think that Idiocracy was like a huge win for eugenicists and
Yeah.
like great replacement theory and all that stuff, because this stuff was not mainstream in the way it is now before that movie. I really think, and
Mhm.
again, not to say that this movement wouldn't exist without that movie, because clearly this is something, like you said, great replacement theory comes from 1916. Like, this shit is old, but I really do think that moved this ideology into the mainstream in a really fucking
Yeah.
worrying way.
I think
Um
you're right. I think it made it palatable to liberals more
yeah.
than ever.
Yes, because this couple presents themselves as they, even though they are conservative, they do not pretend to be liberal like, as far as the American dichotomy. They both have are I think Simone is currently running for office, and Malcolm is intends to run for office, and they're running as Republicans.
Mhm.
But their shtick is very much like purposefully like liberal. It is purposefully like trying to take liberal arguments to make these. I fully do not believe that I think they believe in the great replacement theory, or even if they don't think that it's literally true, they believe in that ideology, and they are purposeful. I fully believe they are purposefully misrepresenting themselves when they talk about pluralism.
Yeah, I think they just know they can't say that they think, for example, I would assume they probably believe that certain races on average have lower IQs than others and that kind of
Right.
bullshit. Like, but
Right.
it's not something they'll say overtly because they want to put a more accessible message and image on their movement. And so they say they're
Right.
very pro LGBT. We can get into that later. They have videos on their podcast episodes about trans people that are wild. But yeah, they want to make it seem more approachable to moderates.
Yeah. Yeah. So they also I'm trying to think of all the things this article brings up. Yeah, they talk about how they're she's dressing like purposefully really trad, but that's just she assures me she's not a trad wife. I'm not dressing trad now because we're into trad, because before I was dressing like a Russian Bond villain. We do what's practical. I don't believe you. They talk about she bought dressing clothes pregnant women wore in time before central heating, a drawstring necked camise on top of a warm chemise on top of warm underlayers, a thick black apron, and a modified corset she found on Etsy, which this is said without explanation, and I'm like, what kind of corset is made for pregnant women? Like, maybe this is just my not not I don't have a lot of knowledge about women's fashion, especially like historical women's fashion. But that shit made me go, what the fuck? Like, you're telling me you're just wearing old trad shit because it's more practical for somebody who doesn't have heating, but you're wearing a corset?
That's suspicious. There's a lot of weird stuff about her, like busying herself around the house. Like, she uses a standing desk all the time, and she's constantly folding laundry and doing things around the house, and doesn't sit for anything.
Yeah.
Like it definitely, she took business calls when she was in labor. She worked the day after when she was in the hospital. She said the only reason she didn't work the day that she was actively giving birth was because of the drugs, the meds. And it's all chalked up as like, oh, I just stay so busy. I just have so much energy. I'm autistic. I would go crazy if I didn't stay busy.
Yeah,
and
we'll
it
have a lot to
definitely
say about that. But
yes, yeah, their whole backstory and how she came to be a part of this is disturbing. And we can talk about in a second. But
yeah,
it definitely seems like they're dancing around this very, like, not exactly trad, because he does do a lot of the child rearing and everything, but like very retrograde, obviously, views
yeah,
and lifestyle with the aesthetics of it.
yeah. To bring up some things from the chat before we get too far. Photo when corsetry was everyday wear, there were pregnancy corsets. Historic Crolius. Historically, there were corsets for pregnancy, or regular corsets could be altered for pregnancy. So, so there is, photo says, there is something to be said for support garments during pregnancy. These days, more people wear special support belts before and after pregnancy, or a smaller subset of the population use baby wraps. I love vampires are creeps. I love wearing corsetry for compression calming effects. I'm a scared puppy in a thunder shirt. So
yeah, so this could be her her autism binder moment.
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so I don't
It'd be
know.
valid if anything she did was valid, but Nothing she does is
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
If a normal person said this, I wouldn't think it was weird, but I suspect everything they do. So
Yeah, they are in full bitch eating crackers designation with us.
But
yeah, okay, yeah, go ahead.
I did want to I did want to continue on your point about not, they one of the things that they bring up later is like, this article brings up something like, people are like, you're trying to make the Handmaid's Tale happen, and we're like, no, we don't want that. We want to make things easier for women so that they have more kids. That's the opposite of what we want. We're trying to prevent that, and yet, as we'll get into in more detail, they are, cozying up with everyone who, the right wing who has those kinds of misogynistic ideology as their core tenets. And then also they say that they don't support maternal leave for
Yeah,
maternity leave. Yeah, for pregnant
Mhm.
people, which seems, again, if we're looking at the science, is
Right. Yeah, and they fall behind the science as a shield.
right.
They say that they support abortion because if you look in countries where abortion was banned, like Romania, basically when they banned abortion in Romania, that next generation of kids overthrew the government. So no wonder those conservatives don't want to see that. But they do say they support abortion, but then they say they don't believe that countries should provide any kind of paid maternity leave or parental leave or any kind of welfare state for parents because the like Scandinavian countries that do that the most generously have a low birth rate. So they say, oh, this basically doesn't boost the birth rate, so it's not worth doing. So it's not
Right.
like they actually care about people's quality of life. They just want to see the number go up. And in that way, they're exactly like Republicans who want to ban abortion to raise the national supply of infants,
Yep.
as I think Alito put it.
Another thing they talk about is maybe they don't talk about it as much in this article, but they also do basically genetic testing for their, because they for the past 2 kids they've done I think they've done IVF,
Mhm.
partly because they say something like she has had in the past an eating disorder that has, I think, made uh like uh, PIV contraception more difficult or something. Let me see if I can find that in this
Yeah.
article. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and this is where we get into the real red flags
Right.
of just how this whole relationship even happened and the terms it started under.
Yeah. Simone has a history of eating disorders that have affected her fertility. She can only get pregnant through IVF. They've had the genomes
Yeah.
of their frozen embryos tested and are selecting which ones to implant according to how well they score on intelligence and future health. They don't just want a
Mhm.
big family, they want an optimal one. Again, this is really, I hate the way that they do not
They don't
question,
even look into that.
as they would say in the effective altruism world, they do not examine their priors.
Yeah. Like, there's so God, so they talk about a little bit about the tension between them being this eugenicist family that's screening for intelligence and the fact that both of them are autistic,
Yeah.
right? And Malcolm and Simone both say basically that they view autism as a part of a person's identity and a potential asset. And so that is why that's something they don't screen out. And they see that as completely different from screening for intelligence um, or other disabilities. Because if you're screening for intelligence, you're definitely also excluding uh, any potential fertilized eggs that could have Down syndrome or something like that. Like you're definitely
Right.
excluding other disabilities if you're doing that.
Right.
Um, And so it's this really dark, like, Aspie supremacy ideology, and Elon
Mhm.
Musk, again, buys into the same thing as somebody who identifies as Asperger's, not autistic, that they have a particular insight into the world, they have a skill set that's valuable, and so even though they're disabled and clearly actually struggling a lot from, like,
Yeah.
a lot of things that they say, um, they see themselves as not affected by, like, ableism
Right.
systematically, like, they see themselves as the, like, Ubermensch or whatever.
Right. Um yeah, so this I mean, I guess this article does this thing where they like I think that a lot of this kind of liberal journalism does where it sort of like presents things in a way that is supposed to like be both sides where they try and kind of like present some of the argument. um
Mhm.
for example, so this paragraph here: pre-implementation genetic screening is unregulated in the US. There are several companies that will test embryos for the risks of certain conditions, including Sam Altman backed genomic prediction, which the Collinses use for health scores. For what they call the quote controversial stuff, they took genomic predictions data and gave it to another team of scientists who claim to be able to predict everything from how likely it is that one embryo will be happier than another one to its future predicted outcome. The geneticist Adam Rutherford recently said there might be a quote an IQ point or two of benefit in doing this, quote the type of thing you could change by having a decent night's sleep or a cup of coffee during an IQ test. Um,
Yeah, so here again is this the low quality following the science
right.
argument.
And again, this is all based on IQ tests, which, as we've discussed, are like eugenicist and white supremacist in themselves.
Mhm.
Like IQ tests do not really work. They are there's it's the idea that you can, like, if you look at what questions they actually ask, it is based on how much knowledge do you have, and not all of it, but a lot of it is like how much knowledge do you have, and that knowledge is like you can't have like how much knowledge should you have without defining what is the normal kind of knowledge to have,
Mhm.
and that is
Yeah,
just inherently white supremacist,
right.
and like normative and disability supremacy, like ableist and like all like and also just like classist and like white culture, or because this is all done by like white Western European people, and so that culture is being normalized. um
Mhm. Yeah, the vocabulary that they assume a person should know,
right.
especially for the verbal portion of the, IQ test is all, like, very, invested in, like, European literature from and, like,
Yeah.
knowing what a yacht is or what a schooner is, like, things that wealthy people know and encounter,
Right.
for
um
example.
so yeah,
And it's
it's
also based on reaction time, which is where the, like, having a cup of coffee thing works out, like, one baby having a slight statistical chance of having one more IQ point than another tells you functionally absolutely nothing, because the standard deviation for IQ, which again is already super biased, is 10 points. So you need something like a 20-point difference before you can even really notice any kind of differences in even somebody's consistent performance on the test,
10 points
which
is
itself does not predict behavior. Like,
10 points is wild. I did not know that, because like the average is 100. Like
mhm,
that's 10 out
yeah,
of 100 points for the average person. You're talking about is statistical, you know.
yeah, just error basically. Yeah, like 98% of people will fall within 20 IQ points of each other. So if
Right.
you're saying that you selected an embryo that might have one more IQ point, even if IQ actually predicted behavior and life outcomes in a really meaningful way, which it doesn't when you
Right.
control for class and all kinds of other things, um, that would not be enough of an effect to mean anything. And so it's really goofy and fucked up that they think, oh, I'm just going to select the smartest embryo I have, and then I won't have to parent my child.
Yeah, I could stick him in front of Elsa farting on Spider-Man. Because that's what they're fucking watching.
Yeah.
Like, that's what
Oh my
kids
God.
watch when they're not, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh my
unless they're making
God.
them watch like PragerU or something.
Oh God, they probably are. Yeah, that's just wild because it's like if the standard deviation for IQ is 10, then like what is the like intellectual disability like cut up? Isn't it like fucking 70 or something?
70.
Which is like most of that. Most of that
That's
is
most of that range. Yeah.
yeah.
And like somebody with an 80-point IQ is well within the kind of typical range. And yet somebody with a IQ of 70 is considered like profoundly intellectually disabled. So it's and for Slippery Loops, who asked in the chat, what does a standard deviation of IQ mean? So standard deviation, if you'll forgive me putting my stats professor hat on, the standard deviation represents how far on average is someone from the average. So if you have a population whose average IQ is 100, just because the average is 100 doesn't mean most people's IQ is 100, right? Most people are not the exact average. So you can compute an overall average, but then you also have the scatter. How is it spread out really far from that average point? Or is it pretty clustered pretty close to that average point? Because you could have totally different degrees of diversity in your sample and still have an average of 100, right? So the standard deviation just represents, on average, how far away are people from the average. So, a lot of people are pretty far away.
And then IQ tests like are all like your IQ is just based off of how far you are from the average. Like the number, the way the numbers are, the way they give out numbers are they test all of the population. They decide they find the average person and they label them 100, and then they like label anyone who scores above or below that as whatever that IQ is. There was this great thread on Twitter recently that like showed the average IQ for different European countries, and they're again not even meaningful because they're all like between like 90 and 110 or whatever, like maybe slightly more, slightly less than that, and and it was like, well, yeah, this is just showing how that the IQ tests are worse in some countries because it's all fucking based on the average. So if the average is not 100, that means the IQ test is fucked up. It doesn't mean anything else.
Right, because they renorm it. So like even if, let's say, human beings got more intelligent over the last 100 years because of better nutrition or something, whatever. Saying intelligence is a single measurable thing is already stupid, but whatever. Let's say people get better at completing tests like this. It doesn't matter because they would renorm it so that the average would still be 100. So
because it'd be meaningless if you didn't.
Right. Yeah. So
anyway.
So yeah, everything they sit atop a throne of lies and elitism and conjecture. And it's really
that they
sad
call
to
data.
me
That they call data.
That they call data and that they call science. And this is just like the fucking evolutionary psychologists too, and the people who talk about biology and there only being two sexes. They have this very like traditional retrograde understanding of the world, and then they just cherry pick science-y kind of sounding concepts to justify what they already believe.
Yep.
That's all it is.
We should do a whole stats. Can you just can we do a stream that's just you doing a stats lecture? And because I feel like I don't know a ton about this. I don't know much about this stuff. Like how to understand when journalists use stats or something like that. Like how to see bad data or something like that would be a really fun stream.
Yeah, that would be fun. There's no shortage of, I'm writing down this idea, bad data stream. There's no shortage of bad data visualizations and bad data reporting. So
yeah.
So yeah, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about just like Malcolm and Simone's relationship that is like outlined in this article because it just is very dark for me, and it just really reminds me of the Elon Musk Grimes relationship in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
where Malcolm was way more devoted to this natalist ideology earlier on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he met Simone, who was this kind of like, wasn't she like a virgin? Didn't they say, or she'd like never dated?
Yeah, so basically she said that, let's see if we can find it in the article, like search for spreadsheet.
Hmm. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because she did it so autistic.
I mean,
Crazy.
both of them did, but maybe that's I'm trying to if you can find a keyword for me to search to find the right spot in
Yeah,
the article, because that's not bringing it up. Um,
yeah. Bring it up. I'm gonna have to scroll for a second. Um, oh, well, okay. Her whole background too. Like she was like the like the like secret child of like a her like a father like having this like secret second family through like a polyamorous marriage and was like
oh,
ostracized because of it.
I don't think they said that exactly. Did they say? Maybe I just missed that part of it, but
Yeah, yeah, she was like cast out of her family because her I think her dad was like somewhat of a prominent figure, or no, yeah. So basically, her parents were these hippies, and her dad they had like some kind of hippie open marriage situation, and then the dad slept with the babysitter, and the babysitter was
right,
Simone's mom, um, and and had a kid with the babysitter, and then was kind of like cast out of the family, um, for being like, even though the family was like supposedly polyamorous, like hippies, she was like the black
right,
sheep, and super like she describes herself as being super sheltered. She hadn't kissed anyone. She'd only kissed one person. She hadn't drunk any like until she was 24 years old. Total homebody, um super autistic, eating disordered, um pretty isolated person, and was also just very interested in like her career, didn't want to get married, didn't want to have children.
she said somewhere in here she said that she was like she had like this OkCupid spreadsheet, and its purpose was to find someone to date and get like her heart broken so she wouldn't want to do that anymore, right? Uh and
Yeah.
so her whole her she was like very very weird stuff and very like ominous implications. Um
Hmm.
and he also had a spreadsheet, but it was to find someone to marry and have a bunch of kids with, because I think he already had this pro-natalist type beliefs. um
Yeah, so and just like with the Grimes thing, none of this is to like excuse anything that, or like paint Simone as like a victim or anything, because when you're in the like, obviously she's responsible for putting these kids in this awful environment and staying there.
right,
But it is this really dark thing of this like isolated, inexperienced autistic person getting into this relationship with someone who knows her boundaries are, I don't want to get married, I don't want to have kids. And then they talk about in the article Malcolm kind of trying to persuade her to buy into his ideology and promising her that she won't have to actually raise the children, to try and wear her down and convince her to actually buy into doing this. And
yeah,
then that just like becomes her life. And now they say, they have 4 kids. They plan to have 7 kids. Like,
yeah.
she talks about it, about like not enjoying being pregnant and it being like sensory super fucking unpleasant. Like
It's
everything about this situation seems terrible
yeah,
for
yeah, it
everyone involved.
yes. There's also some weird implications from Malcolm too. Turbulent childhood that clearly doesn't want to talk about. Comes from a wealthy family and grew up in Dallas, but was sent to a, quote, troubled teen residential facility when he was 11. The only reason he can give me for being sent there was his parents were getting divorced and were locked in a bitter custody dispute, and the judge, quote, thought I shouldn't be with either parent. After that, he lived in a private boarding school and with his fees and expenses covered by a family trust. I have no beef with my parents. My childhood was hard, but my adulthood has been easy. Can I say a parent did a bad job if I'm happy with my life today? I don't think so. So basically his point of view is I was actively abused as a kid, and I hate it and don't want to talk about it, but it made me right, so let's do that again. Like, really, really upsetting to think about for him, let alone his own kids.
Yeah. These are two like neurodivergent people who've endured a lot of like abuse and neglect and then latched onto this weird reactionary ideology and it didn't sound like have any experience with kids or families, like didn't even maybe know what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah.
And like and palpably don't enjoy it. They say that throughout. I think Malcolm has a point where he says that like kids are pretty boring. Like he doesn't enjoy
Yeah.
spending time with them. It's
He
just a means
hates
to an end.
yeah, he on the way to that restaurant, he talks about how the infants suck and they're objectively bad and stuff like that. Ugh.
Yeah. It's just a terrible environment to put oneself in and then to force kids to grow up in is just terrible.
Vampires are creeps. Okay, but who else made a spreadsheet when dating? Me, famously. We've talked about this on one of our first episodes. Mine was because I'm already married, and so like I well, actually I think I made this post marriage, or well, post dating my current partner anyway. And so mine is a form of procrastination where I never am like, why? I'm like, I should date somebody, but I or not should, but I'd like to date somebody, but don't actually feel good enough to do it. So I'm gonna have a spreadsheet where I procrastinate. Basically, I'm really mad. This is totally random. I'm really mad that OkCupid went from you get all of your messages to Tinder, where the Tinder format where you only get a message if you match with people. But the one thing that they did do, which is, I don't know, better maybe, is that if you go to someone's profile and they've messaged you, you get an intro. So, which is basically a message they have. Like, if you go to their profile and they've messaged you without a match, you can see that message on their profile. And so I wanted a list of all of these messages because I used to have that. I made an OkCupid profile the day I turned 18. Like, I have used this shit for a fucking long time. It's how I met my spouse. It's how I've met almost everyone I've dated as an adult. With one exception, wow. It's everyone who I've dated or like hooked up with, I think with like one or like a very few exceptions. And so I was like, I liked my little list of all of the, when I was ready to go on a date, I had this big long list of people who had already messaged me and I knew were interested, and I didn't have that anymore. And so I wanted that. So let's see how long it is.
Oh my God. I just don't like, how do you know these people are still in circulation?
Oh, they're probably not. I mean, I have used this like once. And it turned into a very good relationship that mostly died because of long distance. So basically, like, I haven't actually ended up using this very often because it's just a way to like scroll on OkCupid and like use it as a place to scroll.
It's like you are just recreating the feed that doesn't exist anymore.
Like, yes, that's literally what this is. So I probably shouldn't. I actually did show this on stream before. I realized I probably shouldn't show this because technically this could show it. You could like get the URLs off of it. Currently, I am at. Do you want to take a guess? I don't know if you remember what I was at before.
Oh,
number of entries. Number of entries. Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm gonna say 230.
833.
Oh my God.
So
that's too much to process.
Certainly, most of these accounts are like like not only are they not dating, but like the accounts are like the links are dead because these are links to the people, right?
Right.
Certainly most of them. I actually talked to a friend who knows how to use who's better at computers about like making a way. Thank you for the follow. I
Thanks for
love
the
that
follow.
this every time somebody follows, like whatever we're talking about cracks me up. But thank you.
There's always some lore. Yeah.
So basically I think that there needs to I think there's a way where I could like check to see if these links are dead. Thank you, Hey
Oh,
Zelda,
thanks
for
for subscribing.
subscribing. Thank you so much. But anyway, a lot of these are actually my OkCupid account got hacked, and then I was like, I was mad because it got hacked and they fucking changed the picture and didn't change the profile in order because I eventually got back in and I could see all the messages. So they were like, this was not like some like, I'm sorry, this is such a tangent, but this was not like some like, dedicated bot trying to scam people. This was just some kid who probably bought my username. And so it was just some person that was like messaging people as a hot woman, and they changed my picture because I wasn't hot enough, but they kept my profile, so, like what I had
So
written.
your personality has like, how people talk about having a face card. You had the personality card.
They're like, this is
fucking
good, this will
unlocked.
work.
Yeah.
But they changed the picture to some like fucking really basic looking white woman. I mean, she was hot, but it was like so not, you know what I mean? I like said I was
Would not
goth.
have that personality.
No.
Yeah.
And so so I was mad because I literally had this account for like fucking probably like 10 years at this point. And so I got them to give, they couldn't basically couldn't roll back the changes. There was no way. So they just they ended up giving me a free month of like, it wasn't Prime, whatever the fucking thing is. And they're like, for your new account. And I was like, well, put it on my old account because then I can see all my likes. So I looked at all of my likes for the past 10 years and put them in this spreadsheet. And that was the start of the spreadsheet. And so that was, because I have it marked here. Ironically, I have a title that is at it just says new account on one of the lines of the spreadsheet, and that is actually at line 420. Ironically.
Oh my god. What is it?
So is that over half now? Because that was quite a few years ago. Almost half of these are post that update.
So you've been you've been on there.
Yeah, and
looking around.
I just scroll, and
Hanging
if
out.
somebody has sent me an intro, I put it in this spreadsheet with their name. And I have a thing, like I don't have a complex rating thing. I have a rating that's like not interested at all, to like interested, or so I could mark people as like people I would maybe message back when I'm going to go on a date. But anyway.
But you do also still just have this whole collection of like, these people want me. Who want me?
Yes, because if I get a date, it's so much easier to have a collection of who want me. So
yeah.
Anyway, and so the one time I have dated out, been like dated outside of my like while being in this long-term relationship, it was the person that I went on a date with. We ended up having a like 2, 3, 4 month relationship that was, because I had this huge list. And so I just was like, yeah, of all these, I mean, I was like, this is the person I want to message. First person I messaged, we went on a date, we clicked immediately. And
so the system works.
It has worked once. Has worked once.
Not only has OKC gotten really downgraded, Grindr is like unusable now.
Really?
Like, you have to pay to like message anyone. You have to like pay to be seen by anyone. Like they have like a monthly fee that's like crazy expensive. It's like totally gone. It got bought out by these non-gay like venture capitalist bros.
Yeah.
And it's Now everybody's on Sniffies now instead, which is
You
has an awful user interface.
you
It's
mentioned that
awful.
recently, and I can't get over the fucking name. It's so funny. I only heard about that like in the past month, and I think it was because of you. And I was like, Sniffies?
Yeah.
Is it like you're sniffing? Because isn't it for like um cruising?
It's
Isn't it like explicitly?
yeah, it's very cruisy. It doesn't even have an actual app. You just have to go to the website and it like won't log in. I don't understand how anybody even uses it, but it just shows you a map, your area, and just like dicks and balls and asses in your area. And
Very
usually people
Fet
don't even
Life.
have a profile. It's very well, I mean, FetLife wishes like it had a map. FetLife is even more old school and shitty.
Yeah.
But like and the one thing I guess that's useful about Sniffies is that it like marks like glory holes and like cruising spots.
Yeah.
Because it's map based, I could see why that would be useful to people. Like, oh, go to the Magic Hedge if you want to, you know,
It seems
get fucked by
dangerous,
the yeah.
like not like that these people are necessarily dangerous, because there's an element of danger with all this stuff, and it's you've talked about that a lot, where it's like sure there's
Mhm,
danger, but it doesn't, you just have to do your risk assessment, um,
mhm.
and but like having this database of it is like, I don't know, if law enforcement wanted to fucking fuck around with it, it'd be so easy to use this, which, because you're saying you don't even log in or anything too, right? Like,
Yeah, like you can make a profile, but like it doesn't. Nobody does. Like it's not like a dating app where you're going through profiles. It's literally like who up right now, you know.
right.
Um, I think in a place like Chicago, police just don't enforce and don't really care. But
Sure.
in other areas, yeah, it could be
Yeah.
risky.
Um, but anyway, I think again, I think we should do a whole episode about dating and dating apps. I saw this
Mhm.
statistic recently where dating is now like 3 to 4, like 3 out of 4% people like meet on online dating. Um,
Mhm.
and obviously I think that's probably better for people, but it does make me nervous that like now companies like Tinder and Bumble and OkCupid, like these like very tech bro companies control dating as a thing, and
Yeah.
like the gamification of that and the like monetization of that is now baked into the way we as a population are dating. um and like the potential for eugenics with that shit is like really really worrying to me. um
Yeah. Because they do rank order people.
yeah.
They know who is attractive to the largest volume of people, and they'll push those people at the front of your feed, or they'll put them behind, like on Grindr, like you have to
Right.
pay to message them, even if that person themselves isn't like a pro user, you
Wow.
know. So they are sorting people based on their attractiveness level and using them basically as bait to get people to buy memberships to be able to message them
Yeah. So
and
anyway,
stuff like that.
there's a
Yeah.
there's a whole conversation there. Thank you for going on that tangent with me about my stupid
Yes.
spreadsheet.
Yes. We
uh
love the spreadsheet.
Marquez
Spreadsheet update.
yeah, Marquez earlier said it has 100% success rate, which that's the way I'm gonna data. It's data, baby.
It's data based.
Data based. There is data.
Yeah.
I love, because you could say that about anything where there is the data exists. Like that doesn't actually say anything about the way you're using the data and whether it has any fucking relevance. If you have data, it's data based.
Well, that too, yeah, like, and that's such a joke in academia. It's like, "Oh, we're gonna basically collect a survey. We're gonna write a bullshit survey or, like, write down rankings of job candidates, and now because we've assigned a number to it,
Right.
it's objective."
Right.
No, it's not. Um, so is there anything else in the main Guardian article that we wanted to touch on, or should we pivot to just kind of talking about the kind of response and reaction
Um,
after
I
after
think
this came out?
I think we've probably covered, if not everything, the bulk of it. Yeah, I can't think of anything specific.
Or was that a hydrate?
It was. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, Yeah. So the big thing that went viral with this was that they fucking hit their kid. um and like I said, I genuinely think this would have been a much more uh even-handed, uncritical view of them if this reporter had not been so personally disgusted by witnessing them hit their kid. And
Yeah, that was the
that
most critical of it she became. Yeah.
right. And basically the article becomes like, here is how they're presenting their ideology as data based, contrasted with how like worrying they are as actual parents, the abuse part of it, but also the like the article never calls it neglect, but like, it's winter and they don't heat their homes and they say that's an extravagant expense. There's the 2-year-old who is like, during the entire day-long stay that they're like talking to these people, that is somewhere upstairs unwatched with the iPad. But yeah, so the thing that went viral is specifically the paragraph. There was an image shared of the paragraph where they bopped their kid. So does anyone want to take a guess in the chat how they responded to that? Because if you respond, if you guessed that they, if you don't know and you guessed that they would say, actually, your criticism of us kidding our kid is racist.
I was not surprised to see this one because I've heard this kind of argument in social psychology circles before. So yeah.
So basically, I don't actually know if I have that
I have it pulled up if you want me to.
Yeah. Let me know.
I have the tweet up now.
Yeah. So, yeah, the couple both said they found the backlash that they face on social media to be racist, since they argued minorities often hit their children without the same backlash. We are kind of shocked by the racism threaded throughout this recent controversy. It is pretty well documented that African Americans and other minority groups practice corporal punishment much more than other groups, Simone Collins said via email, linking to a CNN article published in 2011.
2011. Trust me, bro. Like, here's not even a scientific study, but a CNN article from over 10 years ago.
That shit's 15 years old at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's fucking crazy. Like, and the argument is so buck wild, fucked up. Like,
so Devin, you watched some fucking full ass. How many did you watch of their fucking podcasts?
I watched, what did I watch? I watched one on low effort parenting as Pro-Natalist. And I watched one on saying that human beings don't have sentience. That was a real stoner conversation one. And then that one where they talk about trans people being magical.
What the oh my god, I can't wait to hear about those. But we'll get to those in a minute. I tried to watch. I was like, well, I'll watch some different. I heard Devin watched some, and so I was like, well, I'll try to watch some different ones so we have some different stuff. I got you know what? We're just gonna watch the first like 10 seconds of it, because I just
I think we should literally play like chicken. Like, we both need a button where we can make it stop. And we can just see who can watch it the longest without wanting to die.
Oh my god. See, I would do that, but I wouldn't want to do that to our audience.
That's fair.
But of course,
are told that.
Oh, shut up. Not yet. Jesus Christ, they post a lot of these fucking things.
And that's okay. That's another thing this is so ancillary, but like they film their podcast in separate rooms of their house that they live in together, that they basically never leave. Like, they both have home offices that are their kids' bedrooms at night, their offices during the day. They work from home all the time. They don't leave the house. They're in a rural area, but then they don't podcast like even next to each other. They like Zoom with each other.
Yeah. And I think,
It's
I mean,
so
I
weird.
will say, having done this stuff, that you know, it might be for it might be for sound quality. It would be easier to do you know, to do that. It could be easier to do it that way, but it's a weird vibe.
It's very weird. Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to point out, I don't think I can make it bigger. With they're very good like thumbnail vibe, which, I mean, very good is sarcastic. It sucks. It's weird. But we definitely need to make the thumbnail for this edit. This
Look
style.
just like this.
Yeah.
Oh my
Which I
God.
hate, but we have to do. So anyway, I'll just present without comment the very beginning of this.
We can't do it, man. That's discipline. We don't believe in rules. Like, we gave them up when we started living like freaky beatniks.
Yeah, you've got to help us, Doc. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Most, perhaps all the blame, rests with the parents. Have you ever tried simply turning off the TV, sitting down with your children, and hitting them?
These people, you must have lost your goddamn mind.
I guess I just hate to see a child go unbeaten.
Now I need to talk for
Edgelord, fucking self-satisfied bullshit. How awful.
Yeah, and it's very like let's look at what those videos are, and then a little bit later they show. So I tried to watch this, and over the course of a half hour I made it 8 minutes in because I had to keep pausing and just going like ah!
And you said they just completely like reproduce cartoons where like the punchline is like beating your kids is bad and awful and shocking, but they just think it's a straight up endorsement of beating your children.
I mean, okay, so let's the other one I saw is later. There's an ad. There's a yeah, this
Children with attention deficit disorder.
look at the
Children with attention deficit disorder.
Watch closely as I apply treatment to the first child.
Sit
Yeah.
down and study.
yeah. There's this South Park clip that and there might be more, but I couldn't. Let's look at all of these clips. Okay, so first of all, there's the Simpsons clip, which I think is the satire is on people like, you know, hippies that don't parent their children, which ironically is more like what they're doing, right? Like, even though they're conservative, this is like very much, you know, the way that they're fucking parenting. Oops, I didn't have that on screen. But yeah, so, you know, this Simpsons clip is like, it is actually more satirizing. Like, it's supposed to be, oh yeah, we hit our kids because we actually fucking parent them, but it's actually satirizing people that like have this, like, you know, sort of like, we don't need to parent our kids, they'll just parent themselves, which is actually more like what they're doing, right? And so they have that. And then they have I'm trying to see if I can skip to the. So then they have the Futurama clip, which is clearly like Bender is an asshole in the show, in the canon of that show. Bender is like sometimes he's right, but like his whole characterization is he's like a piece of shit that does whatever he wants. Like, you know, he's telling people to kill themselves and shit like that. Like he's a piece of shit. And the satire there is absolutely like that. He says this reasonable thing, you know, get your kid off TV, sit down with them, and then like pivots to this like clearly unreasonable thing. And the satire is on people that believe that it actually works to hit your kids. And then again, Granddad in fucking Boondocks, it's the same thing. Granddad is like not a good parent, and he has very regressive social beliefs. Like that is the whole thing. Is like there's like he is you know, he is on this spectrum of like, you know, the what I forget the names of the two kids, but like, you know, they're like, you know, they have like some political commentary that is more like what the show is actually saying, and then they present like both like critique of white people by way of satire of showing these exaggerated white people, but then also like satirizing some like regressive views that like certain black people have, both in Granddad, and then they also literally have a character that's supposed to be like Uncle Tom. Like, he is not like, his characterization is a satire, like it is not endorsing his fucking views. And this is clearly a scene where Granddad is fucking like being a piece of shit and regressive, and they're showing like how regressive he is. And I think charitably, very fucking charitably, you could say this is what they think we look like, right? And this is so this is like a joke on like like this is like you know, oh, they think that we're just hitting our kids willy-nilly, but that is such like, I don't know if I believe that. It's hard to say.
Yeah. It's a really weird defense. Really gross, especially with the Boondocks clip in light of their comments about racism.
Yeah. Cassie Goes Cruelly says, I love Boondocks, and it's also not necessarily for us white people. Like, that's the point of the show, where it's black folks talking about black people issues. Absolutely. Like, it's not like you can't watch that show, but to like as a white person, but it's clearly like an in-community critique of like black culture, and to use it like as a white person, like in the way that they're doing is like, even if it is what I'm saying of like, this is what you know, a sarcastic, this is what they think we look like, is like really fucking gross.
Yeah, especially just when like, to whatever extent there are like differences on average in like cultural attitudes towards corporal punishment, that stuff is very directly linked to enslavement. Like, these things came because of colonization and enslavement. And so it's really disgusting for them to just use that as a justification for their abuse of their kids.
Yeah, and so that's what this, from the little bit that I watched, because I literally couldn't. The little bit of that I watched, like there's so many, like every part of it. So first of all, as this is titled, we don't trust the quote research on corporal punishment. Basically, what he says is what Malcolm says is, once you have an overwhelming majority of research showing one thing, that is an ideology in science, and that becomes like, you know, a prior, like this like the science is doing, like, you know, people aren't doing good research on this because they believe that it's a human rights issue, which they literally say. And they talk about how, you know, Europe has, like, the European Union and stuff has talked about this as a human rights issue, which it fucking is. And they're like, because they think it's a human rights issue, they refuse to do good science on it. And so this overwhelming majority actually means that everyone is wrong because they're not actually examining their prior shit.
And it's so backwards, because I'm teaching a developmental psych class right now, and we talk about this shit. Like, the only reason it's considered child abuse now is because decades of research have shown how negative it is to beat children. It was incredibly normalized for everybody in America to abuse their kids for a very long time. Like, it was depicted on television. It was very much endorsed as like a desirable parenting strategy for white, well-off families to use, and for everyone to aspire to. Evangelicals obviously still promote it. There's a lot of very infamous evangelical child rearing books. To Train Up a Child is the most famous one.
Yep.
You can kind of tell the problems with that even just from the name. That stuff was promoted, and there was really intense backlash to all of the data showing that it was psychologically terrorizing kids. It took decades for that stuff to begin to percolate into being codified into law and becoming the mainstream in culture, where now it's generally frowned upon.
Yeah.
You know, so it's ridiculous for them to think it's some like PC woke bullshit that isn't based on the science. Like so many other ideas that challenge the existing like authoritarian structure, it was super unpopular, even when the science was showing that it was damaging for a very long time.
Yeah. The last tidbit that I got from this very short amount that I was able to watch is so they're like basically they're like, yeah, all of these, the way they way I won't find it in here and make you watch it, but the way they frame it is like, yeah, all of these people were on the internet calling us animals and degenerates. It's like, but actually black people do this more than white people, and it's like, the way, because no one was calling them animals. You know, that is not the words they were fucking using. Of course not. And so it's like that very gendered fucking, or excuse me, very like racialized fucking like insults. It's like now you're attributing. It's very, very weird. And I think that this really goes to show that I think that these people are very disingenuous. I think that this is the main thing that I want to describe with them is they are knowingly the face of this movement. They I think they even describe it in that article. They definitely talk about it in another article that I read that we'll get to. They are very much knowingly the face of this movement, and they consistently use what they think of as like woke arguments for this thing. They do not believe that they I mean, I feel confident in saying these are racists. These are racist people. They do not believe that, you know, they do not believe what they purport to believe about race, and like, oh, that makes it okay or something like that. They just believe that is an argument that will work with like liberal white people, because for the most part, I think it will. I think that
it shuts them up. Yeah.
Right. If you imply that that kind of person is racist at all, it like, you know, it's white fragility. It's just, you know, it totally shuts down the argument. And it's so like, if you think about it longer than that, it's so clearly nonsensical. And they even try to be like, well, people on the internet were saying that, like, you know, it's because people of color are disproportionately affected by violence, but that's not true. It's just like they didn't even have like a good argument against that argument. Like,
yeah, it's just whataboutism with and anti-blackness. Like, it's just, that's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. And it really shows their I don't know, the way that they think that they purport themselves to be liberal, like multicultural, and do this purposefully to shield a movement that is extremely eugenicist and white supremacist and misogynistic and all that stuff.
Yeah, the whole ideology of children needing to be physically abused in order to behave was based on a model, like an understanding of children as animals, as subhuman, and needing to be reined in, that became very popular in the 1800s and beyond, as a legacy of things like racism and just the abuse of kids in the economy, children just being used as a free source of labor with no like ability to like withdraw from that situation. And it's of a same piece of that same eugenicist logic that says certain groups of people need to be kept in line and brutalized. Like, those things have a one-to-one correspondence to them in terms of the thinkers that were writing about this stuff, and like the like awful precursors to the eugenicists, the like racial theorists of the like 1800s that were like coming up with this stuff, and then that informed evangelicals and conservatives, and it's still with us today, and it's used to justify so much abuse of kids. And that is what they are connected to on every level: the racial ideology, the dehumanization of children, the viewing people only as a labor source. All of it is 100% connected.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean, even the worst offenses of that era are coming back. Literally, we are legalizing working, like children working. Children are
Mhm.
working in this country in fucking like meat processing plants. Like a kid
Yeah.
fucking died because he worked at a fucking one of these meat processing plants that are fucking like that shit are horrible fucking working conditions for fucking adults, let alone children. And this is we're
Mhm.
repealing all the rights all over the country. That shit is like, of all of the ways in which fascism is encroaching, that is one of one of the really darkest ways. It's
Yeah.
extremely worrying, and it's part of, like you said, the dehumanization of children. That's part of the dehumanization of minorities and in general.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's the whole pro-natalist argument, right? Is that there's going to be this huge cliff population-wise that we're supposedly going to fall over, and we can't maintain our current white settler colonialist capitalist way of life with fewer people. And instead of like embracing any kind of degrowth or envisioning what the hell is elder care going to look like under this paradigm, what can we reimagine? How can we minimize the harm here and maximize the like ecological benefits of this kind of shit? It's just complete. No, we need to just by force maintain the current level of production that is by definition unsustainable. And we're going to do that by just forcing more children to exist and be a labor source.
Yeah. So I found a couple articles that kind of do a little bit better criticism of um, of this ideology. There's Nothing New About Pronatalism by Sarah Jones in New York Magazine. Um, this article went into a little bit into comparing it to Quiverful, and criticized the article for not yeah, all true to an extent, but there's more to Quiverful than the simple conviction that children are a divine blessing. Quiverful families aren't passive. They often believe that they too are saving mankind with their children. Demographic anxiety is based into the belief system. They hope to remake society in their image, and that's not too far off from what the Collinses say they believe too. Like Quiverful children, the Collinses' children aren't just blessings, but pawns in a social movement. Beneath the cutting-edge gloss is an old ideology at work. Collinses are as right-wing as any Quiverful family, as the pro-natalist movement writ large. And then they talk about that, and I think this author actually is like from a similar sort of upbringing to Quiverful kind of thing, so compares it a little bit to that. And also links to this other report in Politico that was a kind of deep dive into this author, Virginia Gabrielli, or excuse me, that was the illustration. Gabby Del Val went to that first natalism conference, and the thing that becomes so clear from this article is that the Collins are purposefully, as I said before, they are purposefully the face of this movement. They are they have gone viral in these articles on purpose, and I think that there is a lot of careful PR work that is going into, like, it is not an accident a bunch of articles have been written about them. It is not an accident that their ideology is more palatable to a centrist, to a moderate conservative, or even a more moderate liberal. They know their role in this, and they are not being honest about their true beliefs, because this is the people that they consort with. And in the article in the Guardian, they have a response to this. Somebody in the Guardian article, they're like, well, there are some real right wingers that believe some real eugenicist shit that were at this natalism conference, and they say, well, we want them to be here because we convert them into natalism, which is this, they say is this multicultural, like liberal ideology. But what this article really shows is that this is that is not who is leading these conferences. That they're mostly men that are attending. They, you know, the basically the first day is this kind of like showing the problem, right? And so this is more in line with what the natalists say, or what the Collinses say. You know, it is mostly cloaked, you know, a fear about falling birth rates, right? But even in all of these talks, they talk about like how, you know, I'm not raising my kids to yeah, I'm trying to find some direct quotes. But over the course of the conference, the seemingly novel arguments for having children fade away and give way to a different set of concerns. Throughout the day, speakers and participants hint at the other aspects of modern life that worried them about future generations in the U.S. and other parts of the West. Divorce, gender integration, quote, wokeness, declining genetic, quote, quality. Many of the speakers in attendance see natalism as a way of reversing these changes. Yeah, I mean, these people, these speakers outright talk about. At one point, they outright, like, at the they outright are like, women should be, you know, this. I think that we, you know, the good children that we need to be making more of are Christian, two-parent, conservative households, and they even directly say, you know, that wherein the man is the head of the family and controls the household. There were women in attendance that said that they don't believe that part of it, but this is what is on stage at this conference. You know what I mean? This is not fringe elements of a movement. This is the bedrock of this movement, and the Collinses statements to the contrary are purposeful misdirection. It is not. I think that it is worth looking at people that are misinformed, that believe the things they say, and like genuinely believe that, like, don't understand. Like, I do think there are people in this like new right, as this article talks about, in the new right movement, who are genuinely deluding themselves, and I don't think these people are part of it. There are, for example, the Log House Republicans that are a bunch of gay people that like are conservatives and, you know, promote DeSantis and all this stuff. And then when DeSantis went on his like very anti-LGBT turn, they were like, no, we just have to get rid of the trannies that are like ruining it for everyone. Don't go against us good gays. And I genuinely believe those people are just deluded. Like, they've deluded themselves. They have internalized
respectability politics. Yeah.
Right. They have you know, and they have internalized these really awful messages and are trying desperately to like make their identity align with their awful politics and deluding themselves to do it. I do not believe that this is the case with the Collinses. The Collinses are lying because they know what it looks like. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, there's a way that people get put on the pipeline, right? So we see this a lot on TikTok, that like TikTok radicalization, that there's a lot of people who are worried about this so-called demographic collapse in the very overtly racist way. And then there are people who are just like, oh, I'm worried about changes in technology and falling birth rates. What's going on with fertility, right? Fertility is dropping down for some reason. What is that? And you can get hooked.
I was just going to say, and those, I mean, that shit is real. I mean, they literally just found that that like people's fucking testicles are full of plastic. Like, that shit is shit is fucked up and causing drops in testosterone and drops in fertility. And that shit is fucked up. But it's like, we need to like strengthen environmental protections, not fucking have more kids. Like,
so they wrote people in with, again, this very sciencey and sometimes actually describing a real phenomenon, and control them over that, and then you immediately start getting recommended resources about how to boost your fertility, which for women it's all about. It starts with things like, oh, eat, omega-3s and this kind of silly kind of health conscious stuff that's not really strongly scientifically supported, but you could call it harmless. But then
Right.
it goes a little bit further and it says you shouldn't be wearing any harsh chemicals, any perfumes, any makeup. You shouldn't be like these modern degenerate women who are painting their faces and making themselves look unnatural. And then it goes a little bit further and you see a lot of these arguments saying you actually really shouldn't stress yourself out during the ovulation period of your cycle because then you're going to be less likely to get pregnant. So you need to be really relaxed and stay at home and not go to work. And then it becomes an argument for why women don't belong in the workplace or why they're fundamentally not suited for physical labor. And it just kind of inches you along this platform farther and farther along into a more kind of traditional gendered breakdown. And that's where it starts. It starts with these like legitimate seeming concerns that are really easy to trick people into caring about. And so that whole and that's kind of it seems like even the like outline of the conference followed that pipeline.
Yes. Yep.
Just starting with it's a bait and switch, they just pull you farther along before they
Yeah.
admit to their views that sound scary if you hear them first.
Yeah. Yeah, it made me think about a thing that I think a lot about, which is that I think fundamentally most people in the conservative movement are afraid for the right reasons. They're just told the wrong, like the explanations for why they're afraid are that they're being given are wrong. Like I fundamentally think that populism comes from economic instability. Like is it not entirely? Like I think there's a lot to be said about this sort of like we're just economic anxiety that causes people to be racist, like. But I do think that like a huge talking point in the conservative world is like elites, right? These like these coastal elites that are controlling everything. And then and it's like, I mean, yeah, like rich people control everything and corporations control everything and like these are all like all of our like our struggles are fucking linked, like and the conservative, like the whole conservative thing is to just use racism and all of this stuff to take people's real genuine concerns about their actual living conditions and place them onto an other and tell them that they will become part of the that's the whole thing in fascism. It's like rules that apply to the other and don't apply to me, like separating that the in group from the out group. And that's how you get these people, that's how you get people hooked into that ideology. And the Collins's whole thing is purposeful to do that.
Yeah, people recognize on some level that capitalism as we're currently living under it is not sustainable.
Right.
But these pro-natalists often offer up this solution of we just need to have more babies. We need to return to this familiar, of course, completely constructed in a historical, traditional way of life. Then we can move at a slower pace, and then we'll have enough of a workforce to prop this system up. But it's all based on this myth making of, this 1950s idea of what families are supposed to be and how the economy is supposed to run. That was a very brief moment in time. And it was only accessible to wealthy white people, and it was never going to be sustainable. But they're still chasing a flavor of that fantasy. They're just also painting like this, like techie, scientific, genetic screening kind of like sheen on it to make it seem modern and sexy
and they're doing it because the surveillance state fucking is extremely powerful an extremely powerful tool for fascists. I mean, fundamentally, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, like, in this specific context, we're talking about genetically fucking screening everybody's kids. You know what I mean? What, like, talk about priors, you know, it's like like they're giving you what the Collins is described as, like, oh yeah, wouldn't you want to know if your kid is going to be 1 point more intelligent? And we already talked about how that's super ableist, but it's also like, do you think that the people who run these organizations political beliefs do not affect the choices they give you? like like they were basically like, yeah, we just need a bunch of people, like everyone in the world should have access to this information. It's a thing that they directly talk about, that genetic testing and selection should be paid for by the government. Like, they're like, if you look at places like England that already have socialized medicine, it makes sense to have people do genetic testing, like have the government pay for genetic testing, because then they cost less because they're healthier. And it's like, even if you believe that, like I said, I think is bullshit. I don't think that they really want multiculturalism the way they describe. But if you even believe that, like, the choices that are given, like, it's not like the choices that are given are actually unbiased. Like, the biases of the people that do this, like, even if it's the way they describe, where it's just like, we'll do genetic testing and people can choose whatever they want, and intelligence isn't necessarily a thing that everyone is going to want. Like, most people say they want their kids to be happy or whatever. So it's like, okay, take that at face value. Most people will select for whatever they want, and different cultures will have different ideas about what's important, and so therefore it's multicultural. And it's like, the options that are presented are fucking dictate the choices, and the options that are presented are controlled by these fucking, like, white European rich guys. Like, even if you take them at face value, it still ends up being eugenicist. Like, not to mention that it's that, you know, it is just eugenics in the first place, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like,
again, yeah, and there is no, like, scientific objective metric to it. Like, they've just decided, because it suits their own purposes, that being autistic and having an eating disorder isn't something that you need to genetically select out for, that isn't something that discounts you, because they're rich and white and high status, and so they've decided that they have genetics that are worth reproducing.
yeah.
There's no consistent rule set or logic here. Like, they are just parceling out ableism and saying that it doesn't really apply to them, or it shouldn't really apply to them, even while screening for so many other kinds of disabilities and having their entire value system built atop IQ and things like that, which are just inherently ableist and
Yeah.
and Eurocentric and all of those things.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, let's I think that kind of, unless you have more, I think that kind of encapsulates the like the whole thing, right? Like, the whole criticism we have of these people and the movement and everything. So let's talk about some silly shit, and tell me about these
Yeah.
stupid fucking videos you watched, because they sound hilarious.
Oh my god. Their fucking videos. The "You Are Not Sentient" one is so fucking funny, like, 'cause it's such. Well, first of all, I just wanna highlight that when you pulled up videos on their channel earlier, the rate at which they're churning out this slop is
That's
staggering,
that's
because
terrifying.
it's scary, 'cause they're making, like, 2-hour-long videos, hour-and-a-half-long videos, like, every day practically.
Yeah.
The article dropped earlier this week, then they released a video 3 days ago about the backlash, and since then, they've released 3 additional videos about just fuck all,
Yeah.
like, just random shit. So, they are just churning, and they're like a lot of, like, Silicon Valley guru types, just people who talk a lot and then never, like, actually read any science in any depth, and so it's no wonder their ideas are super shallow. But
Right.
this fucking "You Are Not Sentient" one is so, like, it reminds me of, our good friend Agnes, CalArt in terms of the degree of detachment from. Okay, now I have it up. Autistic people who don't really understand how other people work, which is fine. Me neither. That's cool. But then who take their own strange interpretation of what people are doing and their own like masking and detachment as like a sign of objectiveness,
Right.
So this whole thing is basically some stoner logic like, wow, man, people aren't even awake when they're awake. They just, eat the breakfast they always eat because it was already there. How do they know they even like that breakfast anymore? Like the most substanceless stuff. I'll just play like a minute of it or something, just to give you a flavor of what their less controversial content is like, let's say.
Yeah. Oh, we can't actually hear this.
Oh, do I not have sound shared?
Maybe not. You can just give it to me, and you can.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it in the.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. God, I'm sorry for all the background noise on my end, everybody. It's driving me fucking nuts. It's been so many ambulances and fucking.
What the fuck was? What was that noise? I don't know if that didn't sound like it to you, but I just heard.
We have. Yeah, no, we have like really weird ambulances here. I want to die. It's awful.
What? That's so weird. Okay,
Yeah.
let's bring this up. You'll have to kind of direct me on.
Yeah, we can just start from the top and just
just watch the first couple minutes
real quick. Yeah. The premise is pretty straightforward.
Would you like to know more?
Hello, Malcolm.
Hello, Simone.
I love your response. I love that it is your signature greeting with people, very high energy. But I also think it is an element of your social autopilot. Not that I don't have a social autopilot, I'm on that right now. But I think that's a really interesting part of
masking,
human existence,
dog.
because for the vast majority of our lives, I don't think we're actually, let alone not sapient, not even really conscious, not even really aware of what's going on.
Yeah, and I think it's so arrogant when people pretend that they are aware of most of their lives. We talk about something called road hypnosis, where they look back on a drive and they're like, I don't remember what I was doing during the drive. Their brain just shuts off recording. And the question is, how much of our life is road hypnosis?
And I think it's a huge portion of our life. And it's something, this is what initially got us talking about consciousness early in our relationship, was how do we at least enter moments of lucidity where we are aware of what's
her fucking popped collar. I can't.
I know. She's so Agnes Callard coded. It's
she
crazy.
Really
like,
is.
The little funky dress and the like, I just want to talk about the philosophy of consciousness. No, I'm not going to bring in any external points of view. I'm just going to bring in my own masking and my husband that I love to talk to all the time.
Oh my God.
No external inputs.
So what like I'm curious to hear your like, I don't know, your like argument, like how you respond to this as whatever the, as like, I don't know, like what are they even saying, and like what?
Yeah, no, nothing. They're not saying anything. Like, they're using the most like, like freshman of high school level psychological concepts like highway hypnosis and perhaps the least sexy form of hypnosis. And like, fuck cars. We hate cars here.
We don't hate hypnosis, but you're on thin ice. Highway hypnosis.
You can't even fuck while you're doing it. So,
like,
not
definitionally.
Good. Definitionally, you should not fuck while having highway hypnosis. So, sucks. But like, so they're introducing these like really basic concepts that, and then trying to apply it to like the whole of human nature, that like humans have like that memory and coding, first of all, is the same thing as not being conscious, which is not true If we
Right.
really want to get into hypnosis stuff, you can manipulate all of those things. A person can have an experience and be conscious for it and then not remember it. And that's
Right.
what highway hypnosis typically is. It's not like you're actually like not conscious anymore. So their whole understanding is flawed. But like they just start out the gate with this idea that like most people are not, they're on a shtick that they normally do, and that's how they relate to people. Like you said, that's masking, dog. Like if that feels really weird and uncanny to you, that's because of the autism and not being in community with other autistic people.
Yeah.
You goof ass. Like it's not this deep. Like that's the problem. It's not. So that so it
And I'm
throughout
glad
the whole video.
I'm glad
Go
that
ahead.
she's is diagnosed and is open about that, so that we can because we don't want to assume about these people, but it's it's not even an assumption. We know she's autistic. At least her is autistic, and she's talked about it and how that affects. And she's talked about some amount how that affects her life. And it's like, dog, you're doing it right now.
Yeah, you're doing it right now. You're doing this whole shtick. Your whole life that you've created is this weird autopilot of like, I need to keep this business going of the person I've decided I need to be, even though I palpably don't like it and it's bad for my health. Like,
Yeah.
and basically the whole video just turns into this thing that I think it attracts a lot of, like we talked about before the stream started, like people who used to be on the website Less Wrong,
Yeah.
people who used to be in the skeptic community, these kinds of communities that they used to be kind of liberal and then they broke way far right after Elevator Gate and Gamergate and things like that. We've talked about that on previous streams. These people who are generally like very autistic people, very analytical people who have struggled to connect and understand other people, who think they are so much more rational than everyone else.
Yeah.
And so this video is just one of those like wake up sheeple. People aren't even really investigating their priors. People aren't even really thinking about what they do and why they do it, as if that's like a really deep and insightful point. And the problem with it is that it attributes the problem to people being incurious or intellectually lazy, when once again the problem is capitalism.
Yeah.
It's people being too busy and overworked to think. It's being advertised to. It's living in suburbs and communities that are really walled off and disconnected from other people, so you get no novel social inputs. There being just this American white monoculture that's just enforced on everyone. Like, those are the reasons why it can seem like people are on autopilot and are not actually living their lives. It's not because people are, such dumbasses and they need to like become more skeptical and like aware.
Do they use the term NPC?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the NPC thing, exactly.
Which
Yeah,
is
it's seeing other people as human. Yeah.
Yeah, which is there's a reason. Ironically, the right wing uses that when, I think it's so funny that like Elon Musk will talk about people as NPCs, and then you go into his replies and it's like all this, like it's literally like he doesn't have a very complex dialogue tree, and all he tweets is like interesting, concerning, our
Yeah.
fucking laugh cry emoji, like, and again, like, and I'm not saying he's an NPC, like, because that's really fucked up. That's a really fucked up way to talk about people, because it's talking about people as like subhuman and like less human. Like, it's really fucked up.
Yeah. And that was like a big problem in like the skeptic community, like the communities that were a precursor to these natalists and people like this before it became the movement that it is. People who thought that they saw some kind of social problem, but they didn't have a good material analysis for why it was happening. And so it was things like, oh, people are so stupid, they're just buying crystals. People are so stupid, they're not vaccinating their kids.
Right.
We need to just get rid of stupid people.
Right.
And then you get the eugenicist argument.
Right.
Instead of looking at, okay, what are the levers of power and economic influence that mean people get information that misinforms them about vaccines? Like, why isn't there a sense of social responsibility that leads to these things happening?
Right. You can criticize
so
the people that are making anti-vaccine shit, that are selling crystals, look at, I certainly am not going to refrain from criticizing MLM schemes like what is the one that sells oh man, my nouns suck ass. The shit that is water that a particle used to be in.
Why do I want to say Herbalife and it's not Herbalife?
Young Living is the company, and they sell whatever
not
they
holistic.
Cassie, I know.
Cassie knows what we're talking about. I'm blanking on the word too.
But anyway, homeopathic. Yeah, thank you.
Homeopathic. Thank
homeopathic stuff. Like, yeah, I'm gonna criticize Young Living that runs I guess Young Living is essential oils and not homeopathic, but whatever. It's like people are profiting off of people that aren't getting helped by our horrible medical industry, and so they go to places that sell pseudoscience. And no, I'm not gonna fucking criticize the people that buy that shit because they're getting fucking left behind and they don't have anything else. But I'm certainly gonna criticize the people like selling that shit.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I was a big person in the skeptic community too. I was a big believer in that shit because it's you notice these problems in how people behave, or these gaps in people behaving supposedly not rationally. And if you don't understand the context for why that's happening, it is really easy, again, to put people, especially autistic people, like on this pipeline of thinking, oh, people are just stupid. They don't deserve saving. And then you get like eco-fascism, natalism, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Is it possible to criticize Malcolm Collins as being a Redditor without getting into calling him cringe? I
haven't looked at the Reddit posts. Have you? I know people were posting about it.
I haven't looked through. I meant to, but I haven't looked through. But I do have this tweet that has some of his greatest hits.
Wow.
And again, I am trying really. I understand, and people called me out for like some of the discussion around fucking Joe Cat and shit, and I think that was earned criticism. Like, I think we're very like. I don't want to normalize cringe culture, but also, I don't know.
If he was like this, but he was cool, it would be fine. I don't have any problem with people having a fucking waifu pillow. Some of my best friends have waifu pillows. Like, this is, I support this. I support that. But you got to be fucking cool if you're going to be an anime pervert. That's the problem.
Yeah.
This is stolen valor.
Yeah. And yeah, so the big thing is this is how he fucking proposed, is in Advice Animals, which Lord, there's a lot of
that's so autistic. Wow.
I didn't say it. You said it.
Like this
oh God, everybody's saying to put it in the dollhouse. I had the thought to
put it in the dollhouse. We got
it. This
body.
Especially.
It's fucking full body.
It's perfect. This is really. Oh my God. Okay, you guys are right.
Yeah.
I hate that you're right because I don't want them in the dollhouse.
Soon as see an image with food, it goes in the dollhouse.
Oh God, you guys are so right. Oh, that's remove BG takes it out fucking literally perfectly.
Yeah, it knew to keep both the woman and the waifu. Will you be my waifu?
All right, where do we want to? I mean, again, I do think they need to go with Agnes Callard and
JCO. These rooms get so cramped because everybody belongs together.
Yeah. We need to just like a stadium. The problem is we don't have a giant room. We need like a giant room that they can all be in together. Like almost like a Super Smash Brothers fucking select screen.
Yeah, yeah, we need the Pokemon Stadium. This already does look like a Super Smash Brothers level. Like, oh, there she is. Simone Collins jump scare. She's huge.
Oh my god. I do feel bad that Malcolm gets off scot-free.
Mm-hmm.
This is not. Oh, it's too full.
It's so crowded. There's just so many cool people at this party. It's hard to get a word in edgewise.
All right, we're gonna have to move Ron Paul.
Yeah, he can stand with Germa. Yeah, because they know each other at this point. They're
They're
old.
buds.
Yeah, the foot. Germa's foot can be in front of Ron Paul, protecting him.
Maybe we'll get Ron Paul in the. Oh, that doesn't make the horrible noise anymore. So
okay,
just so everybody is not afraid of it.
Good. Yeah, you gave everybody sensory overload. Him in the chair is so fucking funny though. Bernie Sanders with mittens. Who? Nothing. That he said.
Oh
nothing on
man.
sad Ron Paul.
Oh Lord. So yeah, they can go there. Or she can go there, and we'll get. She's so tall. Why is she so tall right now?
She's holding up the pillow like she's a guy on Tinder with a fish.
Oh. Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
I gotta take a deep dive into their Reddit history for sure. I just loved Sam Bankman-Fried's girlfriend's Tumblr.
Did you actually read it? Did you get to it before it got deleted?
She was mutuals with Context Machine. All right, may his memory be a blessing.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I read that shit. Like, she had this whole like domination fetish. She was like really like into like women's inferiority as like a fetish, and fucking at work and stuff. Oh my god.
Oh man,
It was great.
Context Machine with a K is old mutual of Devin's, who sadly passed away. We were literally talked about having him on the show, and then he died like that day.
Yeah,
it was
coincidence.
Fucked up. It was really fucked up.
He is this guy who would make these, and we've talked about him on the stream before. There is a archive, there is a VOD that it's in the title on YouTube about Morning Context Machine.
If it's in the title, I can
view
find
that.
it. Yeah, I'll put that in there.
Yeah. He was a very special person who believed that Taylor Swift was the God Empress of America and his only intellectual equal. He believed that he had autism until he got COVID, and COVID cured his autism and also made him bisexual. Sadly, the number of cases of COVID he got, he was taking like 20 scoops of creatine a day just to fill the energy deficit, and his last post was about that giving him really bad diarrhea, and then he did actually die in real life. But he was one of the most guys of all time. A real life Blorbo to me. Yeah, the vaccine gives us autism and COVID takes it away.
So anyway, so yeah, that's so tell us we're already at 4:30, so I'm like, I don't know if we have time to even talk about the other stuff that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, what do you want to do? Because I mean, we could dive into it briefly because it won't be timely necessarily forever, or we can do dolls.
I think we probably could. I think we could probably talk about it. I think we could probably fit it in a half hour.
Yeah. I can go over a few minutes if you want to. Also, it's
yeah. I have no deadline today, so as long as you have. Let me. So this was really what brought people's this kind of tweet thread was really what brought people's attention to it. basically SciShow, which is a show that is nerd in the nerdfighteria sort of milieu. It's a show on
Green
YouTube.
Brothers.
Green Brothers, yeah, they did a show called Actually Understanding Hormone Replacement Therapy. And it was I think the line is pitched, written, and presented by a trans person, but they are a like trans misogyny exempt non-binary person that is on T. And they are clear about that in the video. But why this video was criticized is that it gets a lot wrong about feminizing hormones, estrogen,
Progesterone.
yeah.
They did real dirty, as I understand it. And there is a whole thread here by Ghost Pop, who really went like line by line with everything wrong with the video. I assume you saw that one too.
No,
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe that that's the one I was thinking of. So I'm not sure. I feel like I saw that. Do you have that? Do you have that on your screen?
Yeah, I have it pulled up. I have it right now. So we don't have to get into every bit point by point that this video got wrong, but this thread, and I'll put it in the chat as well in a second here, because it is worth reading. The video production included no trans feminine perspectives. Trans femme HRT is already a subject where doctors give a lot of their patients incorrect information and underdose them, don't give them the meds that they want, say that progesterone, for example, doesn't work, say that going on estrogen without a T blocker isn't possible, even though it is possible and some people do it. All kinds of things like that.
I got rid of my I don't know if it's I saw some stuff that alleged that spironolactone can cause like brain fog and shit. So I don't know if that like is true. I don't think the science has really been done to like confirm or deny that. I didn't find this was when I was having a lot of brain fog. I believe this was after I got COVID. And it was a thing that I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll try that. And I don't really feel I had a lot else going on, so I don't really necessarily feel like it helped in the way that I hoped with that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, my levels are good. I have been on hormones for like over a decade now. I think it's 12, maybe it's 12 years this October. I'll have been on hormones, so certainly not a new transitioner. But yeah, I went off spironolactone, and my levels are good. And I have a new endocrinologist who was like, yeah, totally makes sense. So it's not everybody.
Right. Yeah. So that's a thing that some doctors will just straight up tell trans women, like, no, you need to be on a T blocker no matter what. And like, I mean, Spiro can just be kind of a pain on a couple of different levels for some people to just be on. So if it's not necessary, that's really a an abnegation of duty to just misrepresent that stuff.
I mean, yeah, basically every medication that you take is like processed in the liver, and so there is like an amount of risk with taking a medication. And so it's not, obviously it's not worth not taking it, but it's like if you can take one less medication, like if it actually does, and I don't, like I said, I'm not trying to say that the science says is that you do not need spironolactone. I'm not a doctor. But certainly if the evidence becomes that it is basically comparable to do monotherapy versus spironolactone, we should be taking less like as if the results are the same.
Yeah. Like at the very least, patients should know that that's an option. And I think
yes.
and this is such an issue with just like how badly this video was made, and how doctors fail trans patients in general, is like a lot of times trans people have to kind of crowdsource the information themselves because they're like trans health outcomes aren't taken seriously and aren't studied well, and doctors don't keep themselves abreast of the latest data. And so often it is the case that like a lot of trans people comparing and contrasting results of things they've tried and what they found is the most up to date and current information, but then that's seen as unscientific, and patients who advocate for what they want based on what they've been able to find out are just completely thrown out the window. And that's especially pronounced for trans women, who already have just like these barriers to access. So as I understand it, that was a really big problem with that video too. Like if you're only relying on the advice of doctors who haven't updated their guidelines in like 10 years, you're gonna miss out on a lot of stuff.
Cassie Goes Squirrely says, is this someone who was educated by Googleable US med sheets or what? And yes, explicitly
Right.
they go into their sources because their whole, they very, this show is nominally science-based. And I think that is what went wrong here. And there are two sections about hormones, one for feminizing hormones and one for masculinizing hormones. And the author is on T and clearly makes a lot of statements that are not I don't know what they found in the literature, but to my knowledge are less backed up by science because they're a trans man who has experience with it, and they're like, here are things, that you should know, and blah blah blah. But with the trans feminine hormone replacement therapy section, they literally explicitly are going off of WPATH standards, and WPATH like 20 in some it's not what is there's WPATH 2020, and then did you watch it? I forget the other thing. There was a thing from 2016 that they were going off of. Fucking 2016. That's a lot. That's again almost 10 years ago. And
a lot has changed
in trans care specifically. So yes, someone who has been educated on Googleable US med sheets, literally. So I don't think that this was like intentional, but it was, nobody can, like you said, no one consulted any trans women and they thought that they would just, be able to fucking Google it.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether it was intentional or not, because it is so irresponsible to have this disparity, this asymmetry in, I'm just going to like Google the most basic, very conservative medical quote unquote facts about trans femme HRT, but and not trust any anecdotal experiences or community generated resources on that subject because we don't have any trans women involved in this. But when it comes to trans masculine HRT, whatever just fucking happened to me, whatever my personal experience is, that's authoritative because I'm here and I'm making the video, and so I'm going to share it. And I think it is valuable for trans people to share their anecdotal experiences with a lot of this stuff, again, because there is such a dearth of data on a lot of like really just hyper specific things, like how many people lose their allergies when they go on T. I don't know. I just know some people it does, right? Like, it's worthwhile to talk about those things because medicine is going to be really slow in validating them. But if you just don't have any actual trans women there to speak to their experiences and what the community writ large is like talking about and sharing resources about, and there's just like a whole, just like a whole rich network of community generated resources at this point, like the trans DIY subreddit, for example. Like, there's a lot of good quality knowledge out there, and just not including it really does a major disservice to any of the trans women and trans femme viewers of this stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to look up the video to see what it was specifically, and it's the UCSF Transgender Care Guidelines. Is the source that they used, that was from 2016, I believe.
2024. However, they have the advantage of is the UCSF Transgender Care Guidelines. Some of this information is slightly out of date, going back to 2016.
Yeah, so that was the 2016 thing. Cassie, if you're familiar with it, I'd love to know what the deal is with that particular piece of literature.
Yeah. Even just acknowledging in the video that it's out of date. Like, at what point in this process of making something do you not realize that you're in over your head and you don't know what you're talking about and you need to have multiple perspectives involved there?
Yep. And like I was saying, it is that's why I think it's kind of interesting to have these discussions together, is because it is using science to give legitimacy to biased data. And I don't think that this person set out to I think that the reason they are perpetrating misinformation is because they're like, well, this is it's called SciShow and we have to be scientific and we have to go by the data. And it's like, well, when the data is 10 years old and in a field that is rapidly changing and so biased by the political environment, of course a 10-year-old source is going to be really have not just misunderstandings but misinformation.
Yeah. And as Cassie says in the chat, academic research is so slow. Community knowledge is always more cutting edge. We see that with autism too, right? Half of the scholarship that I built upon for unmasking autism was stuff that wasn't in journal articles yet. And since then, it started to percolate out into journal articles in the last 3 years. But it's by its nature a very slow conservative process that also excludes a lot of members of the community from participating in research. There aren't enough researchers studying this stuff who are themselves trans, and that also taints the data and how it gets updated as well.
Yeah. So not only does this kind of have misinformation, it also basically says that progesterone doesn't work, which I don't know what the current science is. I'm sure it's a lot better. But it's just so clear. The titties on these trans women today. Can I just
they
say,
don't lie.
I see fucking 20-year-old trans women that have been on fucking hormones for a goddamn year and they got fucking double D's, and I'm like, what are they putting in the water for these motherfucking trans women? Where were my titties at 18? Why did I have these little itty bitty mosquito bites? I'm fucking 300 pounds and I got, I mean, they're not small, but come on. What are they fucking putting in the water? And where can I get some?
I mean, I've seen enough memes from trans women who, the minute they start progesterone, they're leaking everywhere. It's doing something.
That's doing something.
The hypno memes, the sissification memes people are making about progesterone, the amount these girls are banging down their doctor's door trying to get these shits, and the doctors are saying no and not giving it to them.
Yeah. And
then they're having to order it off of DIY HRT Cafe, which is very valid. Donate, buy hormones from them if you want. The community knows. The knowledge is out here, even if a lot of doctors are still denying that kind of care. And a lot of the reason why they're doing that is because of their ideology. They're really reticent to give trans women in particular strong enough a high enough dose, the meds that they want. This is a very commonly recurring problem that lots of people complain about.
Yeah, TransPeaks said that transfemscience.org, right? I guess that is that the org that you're talking about? Because it's a little bit of your link didn't go here, but I think this is what you were talking about. But I've heard this other places too, that they do a lot of good science. I believe that this is also the organization that had that disagreed with some of the science or some of the stuff that Dr. Will Powers was doing, and then he and then he tried to sue them to get them to take that stuff down, which is a big reason that we don't love him. But anyway, yeah, I'm not as familiar. I should read this more of this website, because I'm not as familiar with the specifics of what they say as I would like to be, but I've heard good things about it, and if people want to read up on this stuff, this is the place. But it's like, yeah, they could have consulted this fucking website. Like, this is the place. This is the fucking place. And they clearly didn't, because what they say does not agree with what this website says. Yeah, so there's there's progesterone, which, like, again, I'm not a doctor. I don't want to say it's going to, like, change your life, but it clearly, like, they explicitly say in the video that they're like, yeah, the science says it doesn't work, which is just so not true. The science, like, there is not good science on it. and you can't, like, and the science they looked at was fucking 10 years old already.
Right.
And so then the final thing that was really the nail in the coffin that people were kind of saying about this video is they have this section at the end that is like, for non-binary people, and the writer and presenter is non-binary, and basically they're like, they're kind of like, the thing that they put in that section is like, also, you don't have to go on hormones, which is, like, not wrong, but they're clearly aware of the, like, they reference the Cass report, not by name, but they reference it, and like, they should understand, like, that what they're saying by saying that, right? Like, like, basically arguing as if everybody is trying to make you go on hormones, but you don't have to. And then they explicitly say, you know, our bodies don't have to be medicalized, which describing hormone replacement therapy as medicalization is like basically a turf dog whistle.
Yeah.
And then they also say there are communities all over the world that, like, have third genders, and their gender, like, their, like, genders are not based on, like, modern hormone replacement stuff, and that's valid. And I mean, I certainly can't speak to every like third gender, like, group on the planet, but the one that I'm most familiar with is in India,
Hira. Yeah.
Can
look up pronunciation.
Thank you. That, like, are over and over again are Hajira, I want to say, is what I'm remembering.
Yeah, I don't know if that's how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I don't remember how it's spelled, but they're over and over again presented by, like, Western science and anthropology as this third gender, and within their own culture are, like, you know, within India are, like, discriminated against as a third gender, even though they're like, I mean, my understanding is they rally around being women. They are women. They are. They are not the majority of this community. Like, it does not like the implication that they are less than women light or something like that, and it's. So it's not only, like, within their community they're discriminated in that way, and then within anthropology it's like this racist, like, well, you know, Orientalism about this third gender.
Right. Treating them as, like, magical in this very othering way, when it's like there's a lot of ostracism. It's not necessarily like a position of honor. And it is Hijra. I want to just correct myself there. It is pronounced Hijra.
Hijra. Thank you.
Hijra. Hijra. intra. Yeah, and like, yeah, not to like paint with too broad a brushstroke, but that's true of like a lot of groups that get written off as
Right.
third gender. It's flattening trans misogyny, trans women being othered historically, and also just being really colonialist and not understanding, like,
Right.
not knowing what the fuck we're talking about.
Right. Like I certainly
when
won't
white people
say
do that.
right.
You know?
Like I certainly won't say that there aren't forms of like traditional gender makeup where there is like you know, somebody who looks more like what we would consider a third gender. Like I'm not an anthropologist, but I certainly know that there are some real examples where like painting all of those groups in this way is really Orientalist.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And if you wanted to have a counterexample, you should have used something fucking specific. And talk to a person of that fucking community about it.
Yeah, it's just so irresponsible to just lump in all non-binary people with like all of these different identity groups from different cultural like milieu, and then just saying also when you take into account the fact that like people have been doing trans feminine HRT since the beginning of like human society. Like this is like something that dates back to like ancient Greece and shit.
Right.
And even earlier in some places. And just to say that it's medicalization for
Right.
people to take charge over their own bodies. Like if you want to talk about medicalization of trans bodies, you can talk about forced gender assignment at birth and people having treatments imposed on them that they don't want, you know, supposedly corrective surgeries on like intersex people and things like that. That's where medicalization happens, not from somebody choosing to use tools that right now you have to access through the medical system a lot of the time to have body autonomy. Like
I just as a I can't moderate comments in other languages, so I'm have to assume that that is bad and delete it.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, some people have a like English only chat rules sometimes.
But yeah. So anyway, that's kind of the gist there, I think. I don't know
Yeah,
if there's more to say, but
yeah, I'll just post a link to the Ghost Pop thread going point by point with everything wrong in the video because they were so thorough. Another one that jumps out at me was them claiming that like that you can't have any like bone changes on HRT, like hip widening.
Yep.
And again, that's just something where I just know like I know so many people who like they started hormones at like 20, 21, 22, 23 and they felt growing pains and they got noticeable effects of that. Like
yeah. I mean, placing like puberty as this like thing that has a super specific cutoff point, like all puberty happens before 18, is also, you know, the same stuff we were talking about in our last discussion about like it's scientific. it's just cultural perceptions being put onto, you know.
yeah, the body like the body is constantly changing and adapting, and these things exist so much on spectrums. And by thinking of it as these stages that people hit at certain ages, we miss so much of like the diversity of how the body actually works. Like it's just it really just does such a disservice to any understanding of like human development in general, but especially trans people, to act like, oh, there's just this critical period. If you cross past it, nothing's gonna happen. And I think even the things that like that you were talking about with monotherapy and stuff like that, like
Right.
We just don't know much about really, really long-term HRT usage and how much the body adapts itself to that. And you can see it even in some people who like detransition, who they have to go on hormones again to get to where they want to go, because the body really does kind of sometimes, for some people, like really like kind of lock in some of those changes, or kind of seems to almost just start kind of producing the hormones on its own, like because it's been doing that for so long.
Yeah.
You know, like
I was
body's
surprised.
really adaptable.
I was really surprised that they didn't talk shit about trans women experiencing periods. Like I was
Yeah.
definitely like thought they were going to go there, which it's like, sure, there's not any science that confirms it, but like, so because there's not good science. So
Mhm.
when a bunch of trans women say that this is true, I gotta fucking believe them because
Right.
what does it harm? And it's also like trans people understand their experience better than the like very bad and like not complete science. So it's like, why are you gonna
Yeah.
fucking shit on people that you know, are like talk about having a hormone cycle? Like it's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes complete sense. And there's just so many things that we keep just discovering once we finally look into it, like the like growing like prostate tissue on T thing. Like a lot of times it's not that we know that something doesn't happen, it's just we don't have enough data on when it happens and when it doesn't.
Mhm.
Like we can't predict who's going to get what effect sometimes. Yeah.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen to the people that it happens to.
Doesn't mean it's scientific to say it doesn't happen.
Right.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's not objective.
I'm glad that we're talking more about science and what it says and what it can't say, because it's really frustrating the way that people present science as this
Mhm.
monolith, and then abuse things that it doesn't even say. So
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe we could look into some journal, like journal articles about HRT or something. That could be a fun, because I definitely want to look at more actual scientific articles and like kind of go through them and either criticize or like show off good science that's being done like we did. So
Yeah, we should dive into that website that Trans Peaks linked, and yeah, maybe I'll poke around there a little bit and see what research is cool and interesting.
yeah,
that could be fun. And then that's another excuse to talk about statistics and data and all that kind of shit too. So
yeah. So
yeah.
I think that's about all we have time for. I mean, unless we have anything else we want to talk about on that topic. Or I don't know how much time we have. We could do we could do one. Should we do one matchup? Do you have time or not?
Yeah, should we give everybody just one little doll? I mean, you know, they've been nice, right? They deserve a treat.
Let's do a doll.
Okay, okay, I can pull up the PowerPoint.
So if you haven't been here, we do the dollhouse. This is our dollhouse. These are our dolls. We're kind of looking at some of them.
Yes.
We recently added Farrah Drew, creator of The People's Joker, and I don't remember their names. The two characters from The Pink Opaque.
Isabel and Tara from
There you
I Saw the
go.
TV Glow.
And also our wonderful friend Spoonie.
Mm-hmm.
So we are running a bracket. We are running a bracket to see who we add from submissions. There is a submission. We should post that too. But there is a submission page. We're going to do some form of this again, but the current brackets are locked in. But yeah, so let's we'll just do one contest today. So who's that going to be?
Okay, I got it right here. It is get it on my screen share, and so you can just let me know when it's like
Yeah,
visible or whatever.
it's up. Duncan
Okay.
Idaho from Dune and
From
Nathan
Dune.
Lane.
The actor, perhaps most famous for The Producers, The Birdcage, lots of other great stuff.
Yeah, what do you know about this guy? I don't know that I've heard the name Nathan Lane. I'm gonna
Really?
see.
What?
I'm
Oh my god!
sorry.
I knew.
Oh, I
you hadn't
recognize
seen-
him.
Yeah. I knew you hadn't seen The Birdcage, and everybody needs to watch The Birdcage because it's such a beautiful early '90s gay movie that like holds up pretty well. Like it, Nathan Lane plays the husband of Robin Williams' character. They're a gay couple who own a hotel in South Beach in Florida, and basically their son is dating a Republican senator's daughter, and so they have to pretend to be a straight couple. And Nathan Lane, like, you know, goes into drag or whatever. And there's like there's these really good like and the reason he has to go into drag is because he can't pretend to be just like a straight man who like lives around in the house because he's too like swishy. And so there's this really there's this really sweet monologue where he just talks about like how he can't even like butter his toast in a mask way. He can't pick up a cup without putting his pinky up, and like people have always been able to like see that he's like effeminate or whatever. And it's just it's always just really touched my heart. He's really good. He's a Broadway quadruple talent, you know, sing, dance, comedy, all that kind of stuff. So he's also in The Producers, both on Broadway and the movie version. Yeah, so he's great. And then we have Duncan Idaho, funniest name in Dune.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jason Momoa is baby girl.
Yeah.
He's fucking great too.
Yeah, I have you how familiar you've seen the new Dunes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you like those?
I loved the second one. I really lived for the second one. The first one, I got thirsty and I had to leave.
Devin, I love every time you give your opinion on a movie, you're always like, yeah, the seat wasn't comfortable and I didn't like it.
It's a holistic experience for me. It's 4D.
Every movie is 4D from Devin.
That's what my Letterboxd is like too.
God, I need to follow. I need to get on Letterboxd and follow you.
It's fun. It's fun. Letterboxd is fun.
Share that? What's the username? What's like? Should people follow now? People follow.
I think it's Dr. Demon Prince. Yeah, it's my
follow.
Letterboxd.
Should we put that on our credits screen? Get people follow Letterboxd.
I also have a rule for myself. Even though it's a 5-star system on Letterboxd, I only give things a 1 or a 5. Either it's good or bad. I don't mince words. I liked it or I didn't.
That's why I'm not on it, is because I absolutely abhor star rating. Like, if people can do it, good, but for me, I'm like, we're talking about the amount of axes of whether I like a thing, and it's not. And I think that people that can like collapse that into 1 5-star rating are like they have a skill I don't. It's not like they're dumber.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have a skill that I just do not. But I cannot, for the life of me, imagine rating everything on a single short axis thing like that. But anyway.
No. Yeah, me neither. That's why it's strictly like, did I have a good time or did I get thirsty and I had to leave? That's it.
Originally Ginaz, swordmaster in the service of the Honorable House Atreides during the last days of the Corano Empire, and one of Duke Leto's right-hand men, with Gurney Halleck and Mentat Thufir Hawat, and regarded as something of a ladies' man.
Mm-hmm.
He has some great fight scenes in the movie.
Yeah, and he's only in the first one, sadly.
Spoilers.
R.I.P. forever in our hearts. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
But it's
fine.
Well,
it's been out for a while, but the books are old.
Yeah, the books are old. So anyway,
So should I make the poll?
Yeah. Let's make the poll.
Okay.
Make the poll and then bring your that up, and we'll we
Oh
can
yeah,
have
keep that up for.
Mm-hmm. My friend uses Letterboxd as a platform to roleplay and write fiction that has nothing to do with the movie he's posting under. That's really fucking
That's
good.
insane.
Yeah, apparently you can. You don't have to rate it, which I never knew.
Yeah, some people really just use it to make their little jokes.
So it is up.
Okay.
It is live.
And then here's the slide. Duncan, Idaho versus Nathan Lane. Thank you. I think Gavin for Nathan Lane. I don't know who recommended Duncan, Idaho, but great job.
They did explicitly say that it was because of the silly name.
Yeah.
He has the best name.
He has the best name. It's very good. Yeah, with other people in that franchise having names like Irulan and Atreides and all this stuff. Duncan, Idaho. It's good shit.
It's good shit.
Yes.
In a fight, I think Duncan, Idaho would win. No
I
offense
know
to
that's
Nathan Lane.
true.
No offense to Nathan Lane. I think we should start like talking about these on multiple metrics. Like considering the different metrics in which these two competitors could compete. And I think the fighting, like Duncan, Idaho could probably clear most of our competitors in general.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a lot of weak people in this in these doll brackets.
Yeah.
But now if it's an acting competition, I mean, I don't know what people think of Jason Momoa's acting. I think he's perfectly good at what he does, and who would not want to look at that? So, you know.
Yeah, I think he's like looking the way he does, he would have to be an actively bad actor for me to think that he's bad. He's not only handsome, but he knows how to like be charismatic, right? Like I mean, look at the fucking look on this screenshot. Like he knows how to look hot. He knows how to use his physicality.
Yeah, intimidating, or he has vulnerable moments, stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, and he's a cool dude in terms of his like actual like activism and stuff, as far as I know.
So, but he's unfortunately eliminated.
R.I.P. Duncan.
R.I.P. Rest in piss. The piss court. On the piss stream. We talked about that.
On the piss stream.
Yes,
we literally stream piss.
We didn't have any piss course. I forgot to. I mean, we had a lot of piss course, and I forgot to do our little bumper for it. That is.
Oh yeah.
Off the screen. So we'll give you a couple splashes of piss.
Yeah. Yeah. Drink up. Sorry.
Oh.
All right. So Nathan won.
Nathan won
in the challenge. Okay.
Nathan won. Are you on challenge on your screen?
Yeah, I just marked it. Yeah. So, whoop. Sorry. Yeah, there he is. So here's some of our recent matchups for people who were not with us at the last time.
Yep. Will you will you mark on your PowerPoint that who
like
won?
Where we left off?
Well,
sure.
Because it would be nice because you have this nice PowerPoint of all the matchups. If we can like start labeling, each frame, each slide with the winners and the losers, and then we can scroll back up and see the results.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do all that right now, but just the one we just did at least.
Yeah, I'll do that. I mean, I can even animate it so that like the winner.
Oh hell yeah!
And the loser disappears with my, I can make tech overlays too.
I'm
with all
living for this. I like you're saying it sarcastically, but I would live for if every stream you had a fucking PowerPoint that was all animated and shit. Like we have the technology to show it. Like that's just the stream. The stream could just fully become your PowerPoint at any time.
Yeah, we just need a room in the dollhouse that's like a pull down screen.
Yes.
And like a little doll of me with like a pointer, and then the PowerPoint comes up.
Do you only teach online now? Do you have when you teach,
Yeah.
do you have a class? Can you go take a good picture of whatever classroom you would actually teach in when you were teaching
Oh
in
yeah,
person?
I could do that. Yeah, next to like the screen. Yeah, that would be very good.
Oh. I'm from Hawaii. We like Jason for supporting indigenous Kanaka's effort to protect Moana Kia. Hell
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, he's taken time off of filming before to work on those efforts for like months at a time. So
Ugh.
he's legit. Yeah.
Is he Hawaiian?
I can't remember where he's from. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, he
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Very cool.
What a king.
Yes. So he still has a chance to end up in the dollhouse because we routinely have a losers wild card. Actually, we have more losers in the dollhouse right now than we do
We only have
winners.
we only have we haven't really looked in the dollhouse this stream. Let's quickly before we go. Let's
Yeah.
let's look around and see kind of where we're at right now. Yeah, I think we're
I
gonna
got some
have
letterbox notifications.
we're
People
gonna
following. Thank you.
We are gonna have to. I think we are gonna have to add Malcolm. We can't just we can't just have Simone. Like that's
Yeah.
not fair to put the blame
Well,
of their shittiness just on her. We're gonna
I'll
have
take
one.
it
We
for the
gotta have
team and
both.
Google Malcolm Collins' feet. I'll do it.
Oh, and also before we go, let's get that let's get that submission form in, because if you have not submitted, you still can. The submission will not go into our current bracket, but when we finish with this bracket, we're going to do something else with the submissions we've gotten since starting the bracket. We haven't decided exactly what, but it's going to happen, and we really want more submissions in there.
Yeah, people have put amazing ones in the form and ideas for the dollhouse in general on the Piscord.
Oh yeah,
props.
a bunch of good suggestions got put in there. I should add one. I wanted to add. There were some good pictures too that I could just drag in there. Let's add a companion cube.
Yeah. Why the hell not? Yeah, so far all we have is the Ron Paul Relove Lucian poster and the big egg omelet from Neopets as our props.
Yeah, let's get that companion cube in there.
Oh yeah.
Who wants the companion cube? It'll be on Ron Paul's.
Grandpa's gonna watch the companion cube. That'll help. Keeps him in his seat.
Yep.
Shit's so unhinged. I love it so much.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Make sure Germa's he's kind of in front. His foot is kind of.
Ah, there we go. Oh wow, it's so realistic.
We'll have to do another. Well, in a while we'll have to do another like full dollhouse stream and do a bunch of weird shit in here.
Yeah, we still have so many fucking brackets to get through and everything.
I know we had to go over today in order to just do one of them.
I know. Oh, it's so fucking good.
All right, let's leave him to it.
Okay.
Let's thank you for time thefting today.
Yes, thank you for hanging with us, everybody. I'm just checking to see who's streaming, unless you got anybody.
Condition Bleen, our friend Martin is streaming. So let's send him over there.
Yeah.
Mega Man Legends PS1.
Hell yeah. Love that. Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much.